you as coach, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Billy, we've got a whole lot to cover today, including live in studio, two very impressive, accomplished ladies.
Yeah, it'll be really cool. Heidi Ganal
and Gay Ribble.
Yeah, it'll be really cool. That'll be nice.
Heidi will be joining us in the 8 o'clock hour, Gay Ribble in the 9 o'clock hour, and a whole lot of news to cover, including statements coming out about gang activities in Aurora. What's the true story? Bill, we've been ahead of this.
Yeah.
Really the whole time. And we were exactly right about it.
Yeah, exactly.
We never said that it was a full takeover of Aurora.
No, not at all.
Never ever said that.
Yeah, nor said they were running around, doing a whole bunch of gang stuff. A lot. They were taking over certain areas, and they were exploiting the problem with certain both immigrant and poor communities. So which gangs tend to do. Surprise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, a vulnerable people group?
Yeah. Let's take advantage of them.
Let's take advantage of them.
Exactly. And in a series of apartment complexes in which the landlords have not been doing their job. And so it set the table for these things to happen. It wasn't a fully functioning, wonderful apartment complex, and the gangs moved on in. They saw a soft target, and of course they took advantage. And then we were told it was imaginary.
We were told it was imaginary and a code violation.
Yes, just a code violation. Yes, yes.
And somebody, I think it was Crowley, posted a great image that was like, so we send in people with long guns dressed like Venezuelan gangs to deal with code violations?
Yeah, exactly. How do we deal with this? Yeah, what exactly is the code violation we're dealing with here? Yeah.
So this was a story I wanted to get to earlier in the week, but with the debate and all that, we weren't able to cover it. The wolf pack up in Steamboat Springs area, they went to go move them, and lo and behold, the male wolf not doing so well.
Not doing well at all. Didn't make it.
Put it down, actually.
Yeah, not doing well.
And there's a lot of controversy over this, including coming from the first gentleman, who's very upset.
Yeah.
Marlon Weiss?
I don't know. He's so mad about nature.
Not happy about this. So everything from wolves to Heidi Ganal to Gay Ribble to Auroran Venezuelan gangs. There's a lot of news to cover today, so we'll get right on it. Let's check in first with Blake Olson, news and commentary. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 60 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 90 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, a red flag warning will be in effect across most of the state from noon until 8 o'clock tonight. Forecasters say it's due to a combination of warm weather, relative humidity as low as 14%, and winds expected to reach up to 45 miles an hour today. So all that can make a wildfire spread quickly. As we know, people are urged to avoid outdoor burning or any activity that could produce a spark. Initial viewership numbers show ratings soared for the first presidential debate between Kamala Khan and former President Trump. Nielsen reports more than 67 million people watched the showdown on Tuesday across 4 major networks and 4 cable news channels. Just over 51 million tuned in for the June debate between Trump and President Biden in comparison. Very interesting. Here's what's really interesting. Jake Tapper says Harris didn't answer numerous questions. Really? This is kind of frightening to me because it is Tapper and it is CNN, and they are admitting it.
On the border, another vulnerable issue for Harris, she also dodged.
Would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
Okay, that wasn't the question.
And there's more.
When asked how she would break through the Israel-Hamas war stalemate, Harris said this.
We need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that.
Okay, but again, how?
True. President Biden in Pennsylvania, in the battleground state, and there's a man wearing a Trump hat it looks like a gymnasium. There's children in there, and Biden's walking around.
There you go, man. I need that hat. Want my autograph? Hell no. You got my name.
They want him to put the hat on.
Going that far. Yeah. There you go.
So he puts the Trump hat on, and everyone's cheering.
Hey, I'm proud of you now.
Yeah, it says he's proud of him.
Just remember, no eating dogs and cats.
No eating dogs and cats.
Thank you. They're good.
Referring, I guess, to the Springfield, Ohio store.
Who's Grandpa at the family reunion?
Yes, exactly.
That's all he is at this point.
Yes,
He's wandering
no doubt.
around, having fun.
Right.
No care in the world. He's the president of the United States, but you know.
Yes. Yes. And you remember in the debate what Trump said to Kamala Khan about Biden.
You talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her.
So a lot of this stuff, it's pretty interesting to watch it as people process the debate. Trump is starting to look a little better.
Yeah, well, look, Blake, on Hulu right now, the top watch show is some Mormon housewife reality disaster show. Okay, like our culture this is a perfect reflection of our culture right now. You know, he's yelling back.
True.
She does. I'll tell you a secret. He doesn't really like her. I mean, it's just drama. Oh my goodness.
You're right. Okay, so the polls are interesting. Once again, here on CNN.
Who would better handle the economy is what we ask. Going into the debate, before the debate, 37% said Harris, 53% Trump. After the debate, again, margin of error stuff here, but numerically, she lost a little ground. 35% said so after the debate, that she would better handle the economy. 55% said Trump, and we know that is one of his strongest suits across the polling in this election. And he seemed to hang on to that piece in this debate tonight, according to our poll of debate watchers.
That's David Chalian on CNN. 6 UN staff members in Gaza are among nearly 3 dozen dead after a pair of Israeli strikes on Wednesday on a school reportedly being used as a shelter for refugees. The victims worked for the UN agency that assists Palestinian refugees displaced by the war in Gaza. Israel says it was targeting Hamas terrorists embedded inside the school. President Biden and Vice President Harris calling for full accountability from Israel after a U.S. citizen was killed in the West Bank. A 26-year-old Turkish-American woman was shot by Israeli troops last Friday, reportedly during a protest against a Jewish settlement near a Palestinian village. Biden and Harris are calling her death unacceptable and said on Wednesday that Israel must do more to make sure incidents like that never happen again. Colorado is starting its longest DUI crackdown of the year today. State troopers and 68 law enforcement agencies will be working extra hard to keep roads safe through October 23rd for all of the fall festivals. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 57 in Brighton, 58 in Englewood, and 60 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It is Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
KNUS forecast calls for temps to warm up quickly this Thursday. We'll be seeing some increasing west to southwest winds through the mid and late day hours. Highs today topping off near 90. Weak frontal system passes this evening and tonight, low to mid 50s. Milder, more seasonal like temperatures for Friday, low to mid 80s, sunny, dry, very nice. Middle to a few upper 80s, sunny and dry this weekend. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088.
All right, interesting story coming out of the Denver Gazette yesterday. Aurora officials admit knowing about Venezuelan gang activities months ago. Gang activities significantly affected
Interesting.
apartment complexes, officials now
Really?
acknowledge. Oh, boy. All right. Aurora officials on Wednesday admitted they have been arresting people suspected, though not yet confirmed at the time of their apprehensions, of being members of Venezuelan gang operating in the Denver metro area long before the media spotlight on the city. The gang's activities also, quote, significantly affected, unquote, apartment complexes in the city, officials acknowledged. To date, authorities have linked 10 people to the gang and arrested 8. The city said in a news release sent a day after the gang situation in Aurora took center stage at last night's first presidential debate between Republican Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris.
Wait, hang on a sec here. So you're telling me that they only came out and told us this after Trump name-checked us twice in a debate?
Yeah.
Twice? That's what it took? That's what it took? To get name-checked twice on a debate and finally come out and go, oh, yeah, we know about this and we've been dealing with this. Why was it so difficult to come out and explain this over the past couple of weeks? When this show,
the weirdest story, man.
It has been. This show has been raising the flag. We have John Fabricatore, Lauren Boebert. We had Chip Roy in the studio last week talking about this problem. There was an Aurora Roundtable last week hosted by Boebert dealing with this problem. We have had a lot of other guests and callers on the show asking about the problem. Community members have been asking about the problem, what's going on. Danielle Jurinsky has been asking the loudest, what's going on? And now, after we're mentioned twice in a debate, they go, oh, yeah, we got something to tell you.
We should jump in on this one.
What the hell is going on? Seriously.
And what's been so confusing to me is this happens in every city. You have gang issues likely tied to illegal immigrants, at least in major cities, probably.
It's probably a mix of both. You probably have regular homegrown gangs like they do here and illegal immigrants. Yeah,
so you deal with it. What made this a story was this bizarre effort to label it code violations.
Yes, by other media outlets.
Right. And then make and governors and make it some figment or feature of right-wing imagination.
Yeah, when people in charge knew what was going on the entire time.
Yeah.
And the only question I can't figure out is, why wouldn't you tell us? What would be the harm? What could possibly be the negative consequence of when John Fabricatore and Danielle Jurinsky are asking these very loud questions about what's going on in the community? What are specifically, when Fabricatore sat in here the day after the big giant thing that happened in the Target parking lot after the Venezuelan election, the number one question he had was, where was law enforcement? When Danielle Jurinsky joined us within 24 hours afterwards, her number one question was, I want to know where law enforcement was. Oddly enough, law enforcement had been involved and had known about this and was working. But the one thing you weren't told, Jeff, I wasn't told, and our listeners weren't told, is what was law enforcement doing? How hard was this to communicate with us? What's the harm in telling us, yes, we acknowledge there's a gang problem and we are working to arrest them? Why is that a difficult phrase coming from people in charge? Why?
And they continue. So here's Jason Crow yesterday. Thank you to the city of Aurora for setting the record state. This is because there was a joint statement put out between Mayor Mike Kaufman and Danielle Jurinsky. There is no gang takeover in any part of Aurora. Recently exaggerated claims are simply not true. These claims have led to a narrative that makes it harder for law enforcement to do their job and incite dangerous rhetoric against our immigrant community. So I think you have your answer there, Bill. They think conservatives are xenophobic racists bringing about dangerous rhetoric against our immigrant community. So acknowledging any problem, it might feed into this.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is that I'm certain that the individuals that were impacted by the large gathering in the Target parking lot, the business owners and the employees that had to shut down the one employee that was allegedly assaulted, the people that were dealing in these 3 different apartment complexes with people wandering around with guns and in some cases taking protection money from them, creating an unsafe environment. I'm certain that the woman that you talked to, Jeff, down there, that had to keep her 11-year-old child inside because it's unsafe to play on the street, I'm certain that, as Jason Crow points out, the big problem in this entire thing is the rhetoric. That's the issue. It's the fact that we're talking about it, that we're doing more damage than those gang members are on the street. We are causing more problems to that neighborhood than the people doing the violence. We are causing more problems by showing a light on this here on the story than the people doing the crimes. That's interesting, Mr. Crow, that you think it's the words, not the actions. I question your leadership and I question your decision-making based on that statement.
Well, Billy, I think you and Danielle Jurinsky are in the same boat on this. Here's Danielle's response to Jason Crow, and it made me respond with a simple shocked face emoji. Because Danielle, she goes for all the fire.
Yeah, she does.
The city of Aurora didn't put this statement out, her response to Jason Crow. Mike Kaufman and I did with the endorsement of APD. I'd like to point out that we said that, quote, a select few properties do not apply to the city as a whole. Neither Kaufman nor myself have ever said that the entire city has been taken over. You either can't read or flat out don't care. The Tren de Aragua, quote, had significantly affected these properties, unquote. By significantly affected, I mean, and let me be very clear for you, Jason. I love it, man.
Oh, yeah.
The Tren de Aragua gang took over entire apartment complexes. This is confirmed. Hence, the statement, what the threshold for you to give a darn, and she doesn't use that word. What's the threshold for you to give a darn? 5 complexes, 10 complexes, 500 people? Get off your behind. She didn't use that word either. And remember, the oath you took to protect this country against all enemies, both foreign and domestic.
It's
Tren de, yeah, I know, and I'm having to read Venezuelan gang names. Exactly. Tren de Aragua is a transnational gang that is terrorizing constituents that you and I both serve. Shut up and show up, Jason Crow.
Oh, ouch. And I love the fact that she brought it back to the idea that you and I both represent the same constituents.
Yeah.
These are both people we're supposed to be caring about. And I love her argument about what's the threshold for you to care, because she's really pointing a light on the fact that he's saying, it's words. It's not the actual actions of the people. It's the words that are being said. So I would assume that if Jason Crow ever found himself in a classroom and a young child said something that was mean to another one, and the child that received those words punched the other kid in the face, he would turn around and go, well, you shouldn't have said that. That would have been the lesson at that point. He would have been more concerned about the rhetoric, the words, rather than the violence. Yes.
Well, and now what you've gotten into. So originally, what was to be protected was these notions of sanctuary cities and sanctuary states provide no real bad downside, right? Yeah, we've got some funding issues, but these are really lovely people that we've brought into our community, and they're
since we've
providing all these benefits.
Yeah, and we've welcomed them. That's why they're part of the community, and they're nice to us and stuff like that, because we've opened our arms rather than other cities that have closed them. We are going to be the welcoming ones, and of course,
and Mike Johnston has claimed that we are a better city because we are a sanctuary city. That he's made that argument. So originally, they had to defend that because there is a consequence to these movements, and bringing in illegal immigrants. You're going to get some that are violent, and you're going to get some gang activity. So that was it. Now, though, you're into pride land. Now you're into I can't say I'm sorry. And I don't think Kyle Clark has ever said he's sorry for any story. In fact, I was pulling up stories of him going, you need to make people's lives miserable if they don't get the vaccine.
Yeah.
I mean, no, you know what? We got that one a little wrong. I apologize. I don't think I've ever seen a retraction or a apology ever come from those types of folks. You're not going to get it. So. What they are doing now is diving into, well, you guys said the entire city was taken over. The In-N-Out burger off of Alameda is run by Venezuelan gangs now.
Yeah.
Nobody ever said that.
No one ever did. We talked about apartment complexes and how they moved in and that was their territory. That's what we saw, and that's what's been proven. I can't figure out why it was so long for the APD to come out and say we are working on this and we are dealing with this, and here are the people we're arresting, even targeting for arrest. Because for me, it's the idea of the absence of the statement. The silence spoke volumes because it gave the impression for the larger community that they wouldn't or couldn't do anything. And that's a little shocking. It's like calling 911 and getting a disconnect message. Sorry, this number is no longer in service. You're like, wait, we were looking, the community and some of the people that we had on the phone were screaming out for just reassurance that law enforcement understood it was a problem and was trying to deal with it. They weren't looking for a magic fix within 24 hours. They understood this is a larger problem, but they were looking to see who in charge was helping. And what they kept getting were messages about imaginations and code violations. And that's difficult. That is a problem, the breakdown of communication. There should have been more reassurance to the community, the people living in Aurora, that yes, we got this. We understand
Bill,
it's a problem.
We were down there for 2.5 hours outside one of those apartment complexes. You knew within 15, 20 minutes you were on gang turf. Now, you didn't know what gang.
No.
But you're like, we are being watched. They're coming by multiple times. They're taking pictures of us. You just talk to people. I don't. You're exactly right.
And the people in the community were telling you that, saying, yes, we've got this involvement here. And that all we were looking for is the reassurance.
Mr. Trump.
Yes, Mr. Trump. All we were looking for is the reassurance that they were working on this, that these people would not have to live this way in perpetuity. But when nothing came out, it gave the impression to the community that this is okay. And what do you think the gang members felt when the leaders came out and said this is a figment of people's imaginations, and when media outlets said it was a code violation? What does that do if you're inside that gang? You look at this and say, they don't see us and they don't care. So we are being licensed to do more. I would submit that we probably would not have seen that Ring doorbell camera video where they're walking around with the guns in the building if we had more of a presence of people saying the police are cracking down on this. We're coming after these people. We know who they are. We're going to be in these neighborhoods. They probably would not be as bold. But when they were given the cover of a story about imagination and code violations, of course they flexed their muscle. That's exactly what you would expect, because they saw an opportunity. They saw a vacuum of knowledge and a vacuum of authority. So of course they took over.
Right. What do you think would have happened if it was just continued to be labeled that? It's just a code violation. My kids, I was explaining to my kids what was going on down here, and they're like, well, Dad, what are you going to do about it? And I said, what I can do about it, which is highlight it. Because we talked about this, about your neighborhood. There's one spot that's dark. It's where the teenagers do all the things.
It is. And you know exactly where it's at. And my neighbor and I were just talking about that the other day. And we were talking about how you approach the cars and things. He said, I saw another one the other day. And every once in a while we go over there and we clean up the trash the kids leave behind. And it's empty liquor bottles and food, container stuff that they've gotten from takeout and McDonald's and things like that. And then they've got, whatever liquor they could either buy from friends or steal from mom and dad, and those bottles are sitting out there. And but they do it in the place in which there's no light, when nobody seems to be paying attention. So of course
if it had all been dismissed as code violations, this never would have continued. And I think Danielle Jurinsky, John Fabricatori, Chip Roy, Lauren Boebert, all those that were involved in it have made Aurora a better place by bringing this attention to it. And even the president, look, politicians exaggerate. And Donald Trump, I think, during the debate said Aurora's been taken over by gangs, and that's what everybody's responded to. Okay. Nobody working the issue here has ever said that. No. But, it's a national debate in front of what 60 million people? Or is that what he said?
Wow,
it's going to get some attention. So
of course
we'll continue to provide accurate analysis of it. And by the way, Bill and I have often said we got things wrong. If we get things wrong, we apologize for it. But not in this case.
No,
Channel
we're right
9
about
needs
this.
to apologize. Jeez.
And when you're talking to your neighbors and friends, if you're in Congressional District 6, highlight this instance of what was going on in the community and how you have a sitting congressman and how you have a candidate and how they approached it differently. And I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'm telling you to examine it. And I'm telling you to examine it with your neighbors when they talk about the proper representation. So have the conversation, do the research and say, who's the person that you want sitting in that chair in Congress and also representing you back here? Is it someone like John Fabricatore, who was right about this, leading on this and pushing for the right questions to be asked and to get the information? Or is it Jason Crow, who says this is more about language, not about the violence that we saw, not about the violence portions of our community were experiencing, not about certain people being exploited. It was more about words. So again, vote for who you want to, but have that conversation between yourselves, your friends, your family, and decide who you think is better going to represent your community. When something goes bad in your neighborhood, who's the person that is going to take it seriously? Who's the person that's going to look at that and start asking questions? Or is that other possible candidate going to look at you and say, because of what's coming out of your mouth and the words you're using, you're the real problem?
The real problem.
Exactly, my friend. Exactly.
Look,
make a choice.
With all the work I've had done to my teeth, believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to talk to you about Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. I've been going there for over 20 years. Dr. Mike and his entire staff are outstanding. I like the fact that the same person always cleans my teeth. If you need an awesome dentist, Dr. Mike is your guy. Look, if your gums are receding, maybe you had braces later in life, it's critical to address this issue properly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique. This method requires no cutting, no sutures, and virtually no downtime. The procedure involves making a small hole in the tissue and gently repositioning the gums. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike to discover the benefits of this revolutionary procedure. Call 303-233-1335 or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's 303-233-1335, RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. When we return, Marlon Reese, first gentleman, thinks Colorado ranchers who object to the reintroduction of wolves are just, quote, people who believe in fairy tales and share the same fears of Little Red Riding Hood. We'll get to that next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show, covering everything you need to know about the city of Denver and nationally, state of Colorado as well. Adult wolf dies after Colorado recaptures pack suspected of killing livestock. This happened over the weekend, and with all the debate, they are very mad. This is their personal issue, and that's the first gentleman of Colorado, Marlon Reese. So there was this pack called the Cooper Creek Pack. It was a male and it was a female, and they're up near the kind of Steamboat Springs area. But they were really getting into a lot of sheep up there, to the point where Colorado Parks and Wildlife had to step in and relocate the pack. So they go in there, and they're, by the way, I may jump over to that career line at some point.
Oh, yeah.
What's your job? Tranking wolves?
Yes, that's a lot of fun. That'd be great.
This is going. I talked to Perry Will about this one time.
Oh, yeah.
Because he worked with Colorado Parks and Wildlife for like 40 years. And he's just like, I spend all my days now inside of an office building. He's not nearly as happy as he was when he got to be outside walking around all the time. So they capture they go in, they capture this mama wolf and this papa wolf and its babies. And they learn that the papa wolf is not doing too well. He's injured on his hind legs. He can hardly walk. He's way underweight. And as a result, they end up having to put him down.
Yeah. And I understand that people are upset. Oh my gosh, they had to put down the wolf, but nature was going to do it for you. It's just a matter of, are you going to allow the wolf to experience the pain and the deterioration? Because that wolf, just based on pack behavior, the wolf's going to starve to death because mom's going to feed the pups, and those are going to be the first ones to eat. And because he's going to be injured, he's going to starve to death. And also he cannot contribute to the hunt because of the horn back legs. And this is what you would expect with wolves in the wild, that some of
nature's vicious, man.
Yeah, it is. It's all about winners and losers, and it's really hard at times. So this was a very humane thing to do, and it's also eye-opening that you can look at it, and this apex predator also can run into problems, that there are things out there that happen to these wolves. Yes, this is a really good nature lesson, but Marlon's mad.
So the first gentleman posts this. Good day, friends. I wouldn't be much of a champion for animals if I didn't comment on yesterday's news about the removal of Colorado's first wolf pack in 80 years. I love how they
and I love the fact that it's right. And I love the fact that it's the removal. No, they just moved, not removing them. We didn't export them to China. They didn't leave the planet. We didn't shoot them off in SpaceX when we go with the billionaires who were spacewalking this morning. No, they're just going to a different territory. You know, Marlon, it was like when your husband won as governor and you got a new house. Same thing, my man. You just got a new zip code. That's what these wolves got. Deal with it a little bit better. Just a little advice.
So these are my thoughts for what they're worth, he writes. Why is it important to celebrate successes when the going gets tough? You can look back and remember why you started out in the first place. Regarding the introduction of gray wolves to Colorado, there's been no shortage of things to celebrate in the 9 months since the paws hit the ground. But while citizens pen their fair share of op-eds about the program's many merits, the voice missing from that chorus was the one we most needed to hear. Colorado Parks and Wildlife itself, the voice of authority. Okay, so let me remind you that CPW and biological experts, when this was first proposed years ago, were like, no, we don't want this. We're the experts, and we are telling you there are going to be a whole lot of consequences to the elk population, to cattle, to sheep, all throughout the western United States or western part of Colorado if we do this. So maybe we shouldn't do it. Marlon, that's why you didn't hear from them. They don't like your ideas, but they are the voice of authority, he writes.
Yes.
He continues, I'm sure CPW has its reasons for not openly celebrating the reintroduction. Yeah, because they didn't like it.
Yeah, they didn't want it.
But its media silence created an information vacuum in which extreme anti-wolf sentiment was permitted to dominate the airwaves. When you don't tell your side of the story, you allow your detractors to tell theirs without any accountability to the truth. And that's what happened. We have all suffered from a lack of balanced coverage. Negative spin was modest at the start, but in the weeks leading up to the capture and removal of the Cooper Creek pack, headlines invoking the nonsensical fairy tale fears of Little Red Riding Hood were everywhere to be found, and there was nothing positive to fall back on. This is almost like the Venezuelan immigrant issue. You're like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
You got some wolves. Yeah, we don't like them. They're killing a bunch of sheep, and the ranchers don't like them, so we're going to move them.
Yeah. I know. And it seems reasonable that, and I understand why CPW was against him. I like the idea that we introduced the rules, but I disagree with, some of the guardrails and things we put on them. And I knew that it was going to lead to some ranch animals and some wild animals being killed, and there were going to be some other consequences. And how we dealt with that was going to be of prime importance. And this is a good example in which this pack is in an area in which they're getting familiar with people and also taking advantage of this rancher's land. And it's come to a point where it is doing so much damage to his sheep that they have become a problem in the area.
Yep.
And that is what happens. So then you can move the pack. This is the proper point. I would love to. I would love to have people, all the tax dollars we spend on silly stuff, I would love to see some of our tax dollars go to reimburse that rancher that lost the sheep, because he's lost some profit. He's lost some investment money. And so I think that should be made whole based on what we were doing.
They do that, but it's a long process. You got to prove,
and I'm sure it's not enough.
Right. It's definitely not enough.
Yeah, I'm certain it's like the idea of, over the previous 48 months, the low point in the price you could sell your sheep for is here. And he's like, wait, but that was because these conditions, the conditions now say the sheep are worth this. And I'm sure they're going to lowball them on it. So I'm certain it's not going to be made whole. But yeah, at least they're doing that.
Marlon Reese continues, had Colorado Parks and Wildlife celebrated the past 9 months, they didn't agree with it in the first place. But they were like, all right, this is what the people mandated us to do by law, so we're going to go do it. Why haven't you celebrate? So rather than celebrating the past 9 months, they have remained silent. Yeah. Milestone successes could have been channeled into a shield to defend the Cooper Creek pack and the program as a whole. The Wolves needed that protection against those who are now celebrating and taking credit for the dissolution of the Copper Creek pack. Indeed, a sustained positive narrative would have built up to the ultimate success, the realization of what a majority of voters, by 1%, by the way, majority of voters wanted when they passed Proposition 114 4 years ago, a breeding pair producing Colorado's first litter of wild wolf pups in 80 years. Instead, today's headlines report Colorado's first pack has been captured, with the mother and puppies now in captivity, the father dead, and opposition calling for the reintroduction to be halted. My hope going forward is that CPW will defend its work, celebrate its successes, and not give in to cynicism, and do everything possible to ensure animals don't suffer because of people who still believe in fairy tales.
Right.
All right.
Wasn't the animal suffering?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's why they put down. The animal was suffering, and the idea is we can celebrate the birth of the pups. And guess what else, Marlon, we can celebrate? We can celebrate moving the pack to a better area for them when they were having a less impact on the humans and the ranches around them. That also can be a celebration, because these wolves have become an issue for the people living in the area. Shouldn't we try to solve that problem too? Yep. Can't that be celebrated?
And here's the bigger issue for me. Okay. Yeah. This was a very public shot across the bow of Colorado Parks and Wildlife by the first gentleman of Colorado. All right. So Colorado Parks and Wildlife, originally motivated by biological research, did not embrace this, is now getting very public pressure from the first gentleman of Colorado, who has a direct line. He rolls over to the governor of Colorado, who oversees this agency. So I'm going to put this out there. You can secretly message us. If you work for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, we'll keep it totally anonymous. If you are facing pressure from the governor that is politically motivated, not biologically informed regarding these wolves, I want to know about it because I think they're putting political pressure. This is no different.
That makes sense.
Than what is happening to the Venezuelan gang issue, where there are politics afoot. And we need to get to the truth. All right, quickly, Jay Sterling, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning. Thanks, you guys, for all of your knowledge and everything. It's like I said, you know, as a farmer and a rancher, can you imagine having your paycheck taken away?
Yeah.
Right.
And they saying, oh, that's okay. They're releasing basically kind of a criminal. I can't remember how I said it when I called in, but you cannot, if this is your livelihood, therefore they're releasing things that are going to take away your livelihood to feed your family.
Well, and when you complain about it,
business,
you're going to be called believing in fairy tales. I mean, this was, again, Boulder, Denver, disparaging the rural parts of this state, and it's unacceptable. Jay, really appreciate
thanks,
it.
Man. Have a
We'll
good day.
continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
invite Marlon Reese onto our show. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
First gentleman, let's talk Wolves. Marlon, invitation has been extended. All right, Billy, give the people what they want.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we make questionable decisions. It's what we call You Choose the News. Yes, maybe Marlon can come on and play this game with us because he likes to talk about silly things. This is what we do. We scour the interwebs for mere moments this morning. I have these stories in my hand. I give them even more dumb and ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why? Because nobody in charge is paying attention at this time of the morning. They're not even up. And this is what happens when we are left unsupervised. Lesson for everyone. All righty. Gentlemen, Blake Olson, Jeff Hunt. Here are our choices this morning. Headline number 1, try to walk on water. You'll just sink like a stone. Headline number 2, surprise boner. Headline number 3, criminalizing fun and happiness. And headline number 4, country is in a pickle. Jeff, your choice.
Start with countries in a pickle.
Yes, the country is in a pickle. Here we are going to the beautiful country of Iceland because a viral TikToking trend by a Canadian influencer named Logan Moffat has created a cuke of a problem, I guess you could say. They're in quite a pickle because Logan recently posted an amazing salad recipe that is taking Iceland by storm. What is this recipe, you ask? Well, it's 1 sliced cucumber, some cream cheese, use scissors to cut up some smoked salmon, then slice up a red onion, dump in some salad dressing inside of a Tupperware container, and shaky, shaky, shaky. Now, if you want to, you can add some capers, some lemon juice, maybe even some bagel seasonings as well, just to enhance the flavor. And everybody in Iceland is going crazy, and that's created a cucumber shortage. You are having a hard time buying cucumbers in the grocery store in Iceland because of this. Now, okay.
It's got to be tough to get cucumbers up there, too.
Here's the weird part. I didn't know this. A somewhat fascinating fact is that nearly 400,000 inhabitants of the small island in the North Atlantic are very, very fond of their cucumbers. They each consume about 15 per year. Farmers in Iceland produce 6 million cucumbers every season.
Really? They actually grow them there?
They grow them. I had no clue. Yeah, they grow cucumbers in Iceland, and because they eat them so frequently, now they're even leaning into it more thanks to this Canadian TikTok influencer, and they're making all the salads, and it's being harder and harder to find cucumbers. In fact, the people in charge of farming and ranching and things there have said they now have to import the cucumbers from the Netherlands. Yes, those dirty Dutch are now supplying the cucumbers, and they're not very happy about it.
Iceland is green. Remember that?
Yes, it is. And Greenland is icy.
Greenland, yes, exactly.
All right.
So that kind of makes sense.
It does. I had no idea that they love their cucumbers that much. Like, this is crazy.
Same here.
Yeah. Already, Blake, your choice.
Going.
Yes, I know. All right. Try to walk on water. You'll just sink like a stone. Surprise boner or criminalizing fun and happiness. I'm glad you caught that one.
I want to answer 2. I want to say number 2.
Dude, you have to.
All right, let's go.
Yes.
Could you just say it?
Yes, exactly. We have to choose surprise boner. I can't believe I wrote that and said that this morning. Here's the story. Last week, a 63-year-old man walked into a New York City hospital. He thought it was just going to be a routine checkup on the hip pain that he had suffered from a fall. Now they did some x-rays, and doctors came back and said, whoa, my dude, you are suffering from an extremely rare condition. In fact, there are only 40 cases ever of this condition being recorded. What possibly could he be suffering from? Well, the scientific name is penile ossification. His boner is turning into a bone. Yes, I did say that out loud. Now, the initial X-ray doctors took. Yes, what happens is is that inside that place of the man's body, there's a buildup of bone-like calcification, plaque-like calcification that begins getting distributed in that area of the body, and it then begins hardening, just like it would in any other area. It's extremely rare. Only 40 cases have ever been found, and now he's one of them. Here's the really crazy part. This can be treated. But he left the hospital before getting any treatment or asking about it.
No.
So, yes, he's just like, I'm just going to take my boner home with me. Again, I had to say that as much as possible because I am not going to be on the show tomorrow because of that. All righty. Final choice this morning, Jeff. Try to walk on water. You'll just sink like a stone, or criminalizing fun and happiness.
Is there a confession option in there?
See, I always get everybody in trouble. That's just my job.
Let's do the sink like a stone.
All righty. This is amazing. Now, if you try to walk on water, you'll just sink like a stone. Bon Jovi fans will notice that is a lyric from Life is Beautiful by Bon Jovi. And life is beautiful because John is now credited with saving a woman's life. He persuaded her not to jump into suicide off a bridge. Yeah. He was filming a music video in Nashville. And during the music video filming, he sees that there's a woman over there standing on the edge of the bridge and she's over the railing. He and another person walk over there and talk her down. He saves her life. Now, he actually is trained in this type of crisis management because it's been important for him. So he used his training and saved a life. That's a rock star, my friends. That's a rock star.
Cool. Yep. Very cool.
Yep, that's it. That's all you choose the news. And I'm going to go talk to HR.
When we return, we're going to get into a big new Colorado health poll. What's the most important issue facing Coloradans? We got studies. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill
News
Show.
Talk 710 CAN US.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after the news with Blake Olson. Big new poll coming out. Cost of living, housing affordability are the top concerns for Colorado residents. But if you're a Democrat, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
If you're a Democrat, the top issue is climate change.
Yeah, I was surprised that was number one, honestly.
80% of Democrats said climate change is a serious problem compared to just 9% of Republicans. Oh, my gosh. All right. I want to hear, especially from our Democrat listeners on this one, how important climate change. I get the idea of putting a can into the recycling or whatever, but serious issue, serious problem.
Yeah, see,
this is where I just feel like y'all are sometimes way out there.
See, and this is where I'm a little bit closer to our liberal side where, yeah, I do think it's a serious problem. Would it rank number one? No. But is it a serious problem? Yeah, it's going to be a serious problem. And there are going to be all sorts of things that are going to, spiral out because of the issue. But number one, by that amount, no, I wouldn't rank it number one. I think there are much more immediate problems that we are dealing with. But should we be concerned about it? Yeah, we should. But again, what are the solutions? That's the other part that's really, really weird about this one, because some of the solutions that are proposed are just bat crazy, ridiculous. So, yeah.
So we got lots to cover on what Colorados are concerned about it. And what does this mean for the upcoming election? Top ones overall: cost of living, inflation, housing affordability, government politics, homelessness, and immigration and crime. If that's those top issues, this might be a good election for Republicans. But give me a call, 303-696-1971. Let's check in on the news and commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, it falls at about 103 on my list for you.
It's so far down. And I love the outdoor. I spend a ton of time. I'm a rancher. I was a river guide. I've been through drought years. 2002 was a terrible year to be a river guide. There's no water out there, all the wildfires. I get it. But the idea that you're making any impact by driving a little EV or throwing a can into the recycling, you're not making any change at that. In fact, there was a great study at one point that was like wildfires in California alone in 1 year wiped out all of the CO2 that was saved by driving in cars by like 25 years, 365 days or something. 1 year of wildfire. So it just nature is so much more powerful. A volcano is going to put way more CO2 into this atmosphere than you're going to save by driving your little EV.
If you want to make God laugh, tell him what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
59 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 90 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story: a 17-year-old boy is in the hospital after he was shot in the face while looking for a place to take homecoming photos on Tuesday. Police say he was with another teen at a property along Pleasant Park Road and was shot while he was in his car writing a note to the property owner for permission to take photos there. The owner reportedly called her boyfriend about two trespassers, and police say he arrived and fired a shot through the windshield of the car. The suspect is 38-year-old town of Mountain View council member Brent Metz, and he faces several felony charges. There's no word on the victim's current condition.
I mean, Blake, what do you think happened there?
I mean, it's just a sad, horrible story. I don't know. I mean,
I'm trying to figure that out too. Did he make a move maybe in his car that would have, because this is important. We should talk about this real quick. You can only shoot somebody, even if they're on your property, if you feel like they are going to threaten your life.
Correct.
Right? Like, so if somebody's on your property stealing even a car, or so, you can't shoot them over that. You can't shoot them because they're stealing a pig or even killing a goat or a duck on your property. You can't do it.
This is on your property, not in your home, correct?
Yeah. I mean, if they enter your home and you have a reasonable fear that you're going to be harmed, yes, you do. You can't just shoot people because they're on your property.
Right. Correct. And that's, man, you just wonder. I mean, what were they wearing? What did they look like? What were the actions?
Maybe the shooter's just a lunatic and just was like, you're on my property.
Maybe.
Pew, pew. I don't know.
I'm just praying for the kid. And, it's a horrible situation. It really is. He was writing a note for permission to take the photos on the property. It's just sad. Just praying for him, because you can see where this would evolve with teenagers. Hey, that's a good idea. We used to do that. Let's go out onto old man Smith's property. He won't mind. And I don't know what time of day it was either. I didn't hear that, so we'll see what happens with that story. A red flag warning will be in effect across most of Colorado from noon until 8 tonight. Dry and windy conditions today, so please take precautions. In California, the state's largest wildfire is burning just east of LA, and we're expected to see the hazy skies from that today here on the Front Range. The investigation into the massive Alexander Mountain fire in Larimer County has led to an arrest. The man in custody is 49-year-old Jason Hobby, and he's charged with first-degree arson. He reportedly used to work at the Sylvan Dale Guest Ranch, which is where investigators believe the fire started. Hobby is also accused of impersonating a police officer and a firefighter, as well as pointing a gun at people near the ranch. Nearly 400,000 are without power as Tropical Depression Francine inundates Louisiana with torrential rain. At last check, the National Hurricane Center in Fort Collins puts the storm about 30 miles south of Jackson, Mississippi. VP Kamala Khan on the campaign trail today in the key battleground state of North Carolina for a pair of rallies. Former President Trump scheduled to speak in Tucson. And a couple of days after the debate, some are looking at all the lies. A lot of people now looking at all the lies and that were exposed. And one of the moderators, not David Smear, but Lindsay Davis, did this.
And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
The truth is, in 8 states you can, and well documented in Timmy Nowall's state of Minnesota. And most conservatives remember this about 5 years ago with a Democratic delegate in Virginia. It was horrific.
How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman
or physical health?
Okay. I'm talking about the mental health.
So, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay. But to the end of the third trimester.
Yep. I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs of that she is about to give a birth. Would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman.
I understand that. I'm asking if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
Oh, wow. So will Lindsay Davis learn the lesson there?
I think
Probably
it's
not.
so sensitive about the third trimester abortion issue. It's kind of bizarre. So in Colorado, we have a doctor who specifically does this. His name's Dr. Hearn. He lives in Boulder, Colorado, and he provides, and he thinks he's done great stuff. I read interviews and articles. I'm really helping these women get these, third trimester abortions. There's no requirement that there's a threat to health or anything like that. You just show and be like, I'm done. My boyfriend and I broke up. We were planning to have this baby, and now I don't want to have anything to do with him. So yeah, I'm going to give birth in 2 weeks. Let's just go ahead and kill the baby. And so this absolutely happens. And when we were down at the state capitol fighting all this stuff, you'd bring it up and it gets so sensitive. The left does about it. And they try to claim it doesn't happen, or that it's only with like really extreme circumstances. Because why would you carry to term a baby 38, 39 weeks and then kill it. That's just crazy, but it happens. It happens. You have a doctor who literally provides this stuff. And then you get this, well, we would never kill a baby outside the womb. Okay. So Republicans, and in Minnesota in particular, and I really want to thank Focus on the Family for addressing this. Jim Daly, CEO, Focus on the Family, put out a video yesterday on this, going after ABC, where Republicans have said if a child survives an abortion attempt, right? And this happens. It's happened, at least 8, 9, 10 times in Minnesota. You as the doctor, there's a living, breathing human being outside the womb. Provide care for it, right? So Republicans go, all right, we're not going to get into the abortion issue, but the baby lives. It's outside the womb. It's breathing. Can the doctor just please provide care for it? Okay? Wow. Democrats shot down that bill time after time after time again. And then they go, well, this doesn't really happen. Well, you're asking an abortionist as to whether or not it's actually happening, right?
Exactly.
There's no independent verification of this. The doctor who's providing the abortion is the one we're relying on to tell us whether or not it's living outside the womb or not. Of course, they're not going to tell the truth about that. So,
it's horrible.
No, it's a weird situation.
No idea. It is. It's strange. Satan is working. That's what's happening.
That's right.
President Biden, he's in Pennsylvania, or was, and walking around, and he was in a gymnasium. And there were Trump supporters there, and the man was wearing the Trump hat. And they had a little exchange. They told him to put the hat on. All right, so credit him. He put the hat on, and they cheered for him. And I think there were a lot of Trump supporters in there. Went back and forth. But as Trump said, he doesn't like Kamala Khan. And I believe him. What about you, Joe?
No, Joe Biden's in his senior year of high school right now. He is second semester senior year of high school.
Senioritis.
He's checked out. He's having fun.
True.
He's joking around with people. Oh, you want me to put a Trump hat on? I'll put a Trump hat on. Whatever it is. And
they're not drugging him like they did, 6 months ago.
Right.
So he is just so out there.
He is. He's grandpa at the family reunion, man. He's just having fun. But he's the president of the United States.
I know.
This is why Israel's out on their own. This is why Ukraine and Russia is not being fixed.
Absolutely.
And Kamala Harris defended him, saying this guy was totally with it. Very strong. Next 4 years are going to be great.
He's as sharp as I've seen him.
Right.
And experienced in his presidency. 55 in Boulder, 57 in Highlands Ranch, 59 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast calls for temps to warm up quickly this Thursday. We'll be seeing some increasing west to southwest winds through the mid and late day hours. Highs today topping off near 90. Weak frontal system passes this evening and tonight, low to mid 50s. Milder, more seasonal like temperatures for Friday, low to mid 80s, sunny, dry, very nice. Middle to a few upper 80s, sunny and dry this weekend. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088.
All right, what are the top issues motivating you? There was this big survey put together by the Colorado Health Foundation, and this may impact the election, give you at least insight into what people or what's really motivating people at this upcoming election. Cost of living, housing, and politics top the list of concerns for Coloradans this year, according to the Colorado Health Foundation's annual poll survey. Of the 2,404 individuals surveyed, 19% identified cost of living and inflation as the most important issue facing the state, while 17% named housing affordability and 11% cited government and politics. Other top concerns included homelessness, immigration, and public safety. Immigration saw the highest change, a 12% increase. Uh-oh. My computer's doing some weird stuff, buddy.
Oh, no, I can keep reading if you need me to.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, immigration saw the highest change. Yeah, it's a 12-point increase from last year's survey. Responders for the cost of living and housing increased 3 and 2 points, respectively. Now, party line divides were interesting because Democrats and Republicans held starkly different views. Again, reading from the Denver Gazette, on our state's top issue, 85% of Republican responders said illegal immigration is extremely serious or very serious problem, compared to just 26% of Democrats. Now, conversely, 80% of Democrats said climate change is a serious problem, compared to just 9% of Republicans. Over half of Republican respondents said their political beliefs made them feel like they didn't belong to the community, and compared to only 31% of Democrats. Yeah.
That is very true. That is being a conservative in a blue state.
Yeah.
Over half of Republicans responded said their political beliefs made them feel like they don't belong in the community.
And only 1/3 of Democrats. And those are the Democrats living on the plains.
Right. The Democrats are going, this is our state.
Yeah. And they're living on the plains.
We control this state.
And also they talked about cost of living. They go on to talk about cost of living concerns, saying that given the cost of living is among top concerns for all respondents, not surprising that over 70% expressed being somewhat or very worried about being able to afford living in Colorado in the future. 20% of the respondents said they have skipped a meal because they could not afford food. Yeah, and 1/3, so about 30%, 33% say they have to work multiple jobs in order to afford rent or mortgage. Now, among those that do have a home, so homeowners, 1/3 say that they are worried they're going to have to move because they can't afford that mortgage. So these are people that are already in houses, and 1/3 of them are saying, I'm not going to be able to keep up these payments based on the economy right now, and so we're going to have to move. And 51% of renters said they aspire to eventually own a home, but they do not see it as a realistic possibility. So half of the respondents in Denver that they talked to that are living in an apartment absolutely want to become Colorado homeowners, but don't think they're going to be able to afford a home in Colorado. That's huge. I mean, think about half of the people.
Yeah. On the homeownership side, I mean, you live in blue states, it gets very expensive. You have all of these social programs that are propped up, right? Think about the millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars being spent on illegal immigrants. Where'd they get that money from? We got it from you. And now they want to increase the taxes in the city of Denver, for instance, to backfill where they've prioritized some of the other funding that's going out there. So, yeah, in places like California, Colorado, New York, Oregon, Washington, everything gets more expensive and everything goes to crap. That's what it's like living under Democrat rule. All right, let's go to Evan. I want to talk to Evan about climate change. Evan, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. 80% of Democrats said climate change is a serious problem, just compared to about 9% of Republicans. I'm part of the other 91% that's like, no, this isn't a serious problem at all. What say you, Evan?
I say there's a correlation between those who want to reintroduce wolves and those who are afraid or have some crazy fear of climate change. And I'm curious what you're thinking.
I think there's a direct correlation. I think the people out here who love the wolves are also terrified of the climate getting warmer.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there could be a correlation. I think you're right about that there's a correlation based on the people that are very pro-wolf and climate change as well. And I would fall tangentially into both of those camps. You know, I'm in favor of the wolves, but I understand the impact that they have, and I want to make sure that the ranchers and the farmers are compensated in any way, shape, or form for any of the negative impact that wolves are going to have on their properties and on their stock. But I'm also perfectly fine with those same farmers and ranchers shooting the wolves that are coming on their property, going after their stock. Because again, for me, that is nature, and that's how the West lives. I think the wolves can be beneficial to the ecosystem. But yeah, some of them are going to die, and some are going to die at human hands, and that's okay. And we'll teach the wolves to stay the hell away from the humans. That's okay. That's a good learning behavior. And on climate change, I do think that it is a concern. Is it a major concern? Or is it something that's top of my list? No, but I'm worried about the number of hot days that we're having in a row. I'm worried about places across the country and across the world breaking heat records over and over again. I'm worried about the number of those days happening in a row. And I'm worried about rising temperatures inside the sea, because all of those things will contribute to it making it harder for us to live on the planet. And we can debate. I mean, Evan, Jeff, listeners can debate whether or not and how much impact humans have on it. But to say that it's not going to impact us, even if we are not responsible for any of it, even if this is totally natural and the world is heating up, it doesn't mean it won't impact us. It doesn't mean it won't change how and where we're going to live. It doesn't mean it won't change our crops and growing seasons. It's going to make it more difficult in certain areas for those farmers and ranchers to raise their livestock and to grow their food. We should be concerned about that. I'm not in the camp of, oh my God, stop driving all the cars. I'm not in that camp in any way, shape, or form, but I think that we should, as Jeff talks about, be responsible. We should be responsible stewards of the land, and some of it is changing. And Evan, you've seen it in your lifetime. Jeff's seen it in his lifetime. I've seen it in my lifetime. We have real world examples of the impact of climate change that we're living with right now.
What has actually changed in your lifetime? I mean, is it that the temperature's gone up a little bit? Because I've been a lot of time outside, and nothing's really changed that much.
Yeah, it has changed quite a bit. And the number one thing that I brought, and we've talked about it before, is Tornado Alley. It doesn't exist anymore. We have no Tornado Alley. We have no tornado season. We have tornadoes around the country at times of the year and in places we never did. That is a direct function of climate change. When you have, I think it was Las Vegas or Phoenix this past year that broke their record of number of days in a row over 110 degrees. They got to 20 plus days of over 100 degrees. That's a little bit difficult. You want to talk about being able to live there. What you're looking at is that's going to be a stronger push on the grid, on the electronic grid, because we're going to have to deal with that in one way or another. It also changes how you can spend time outside with your children, or at a park, or even fishing, or going down and doing river rafting. Those things are real world examples. When you have temperatures outside of the coast of Australia and even off the coast of Florida, raising temperatures in the sea level while coral reefs are dying off, that changes an ecosystem. That changes an environment. If we are happy going and having fish to eat, you got to be concerned about things like that. Now, again, do I think we all need to be having pedal bikes and moving to EVs and taking away fossil fuels? No. Never. I'm never in favor of banning fossil fuels or taking them away. But I do think that we should have a conversation about what we do about it. Evan, your thoughts?
Well, there's a great book that I've read, and I've propounded this book before. It's called Unstoppable Global Warming. I always forget the actual name of the author. I believe he's an astronomer out of either North or South Carolina. But to ascribe global warming to mankind, I think is ludicrous. But I'll be very frank with you when I say I don't go up in the hills anymore and hike. I used to love it. I used to live in the mountains. I used to live on the western slope. I'm more afraid of getting ripped up by a wolf than I am of dying of asphyxiation from so-called global warming. But I'm glad you gentlemen are addressing it. It needs to be something that's talked about or at least discussed. Most of the people or scientists whom I've watched either videos or read books say that the anthropomorphic, which is a word I have difficulty pronouncing, ascription to mankind is a little ludicrous. But, we did drop nuclear weapons on Japan, and I think a lot of us have suffered the consequences of that too.
Yeah. Now, Evan, I got a question for you. Now, again, we can take man-made global warming of the issues off the table, because again, I'm unconvinced that we are this large, huge. I think we are contributing a lot of extra CO2 and stuff into the atmosphere. But I'm unconvinced that as a whole, we are going to be the major cause or anything else. And I also am unconvinced that some of the changes that we make, the idea of the EVs and the recycling are going to make that much of a difference because it has to be done on such a scale. But what I'm worried about, and this is when I talk about just not dealing with it, when we say it doesn't exist or I'm not worried about it, what can happen, and this may not be for you, but it could be for your kids or relatives in 10, 20 years, where the cost of what they're paying for food is phenomenally more expensive. I mean, we can go to the grocery store and we're talking about the pain of inflation and increased costs. Imagine if those oranges and apples are 7 times the cost they are now, not because of inflation, but because it's hard to produce them. Same thing can happen with coffee in South America. It could be incredibly hard to produce them. Crops that have to exist in a certain region, if the temperatures change, that growing season changes. And farmers and ranchers will tell you this. One of the big things that we have issues with, based on, again, whether or not it's caused by humans or not, with climate change, are frogs. Because frogs and the permeability of their skin, and in order to develop from eggs into tadpoles, they are dependent upon the external temperatures around them. And if we don't have the right temperatures in an area, the frogs die off. And that hurts the ecosystem because not only do they eat the insects, but they're also predator food. So the other predators don't have food to eat. So there is a cascading effect inside of it. And that's the difficulty I always have in the climate change conversation is it's always this argument about does it exist or does it not? It exists. We can. I hate the liberals that focus on the man-made costs and the man-made things. No, let's talk about solutions. How are we going to deal with this changing and growing and changing in the environment, regardless of whether or not it's man-made?
Man, I love you, Billy, but I'm not there with you.
I know you're not.
I'm not there with you.
And so
it's like frogs. I remember one time it was bees that somehow 5G was affecting bees.
Well,
I mean, it's just,
I don't know about that one,
it's
but again,
always one thing after the next, or
the bee population is seriously
remember the eagle eggs and DDT and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Look, here's my perspective. We as humans engineer our way out of these problems. We always do. We figure it out. And if there's going to be problems with oranges or coffee, I'm sure we'll figure it out. But what you get in this climate alarmism is that somehow the whole world is going to come crashing to a halt and everything's going to be terrible and suffering. And if you're a Democrat and you believe you're part of the, 80% of Democrats who said climate change is a serious problem, I think you're just deceived. Sorry. I don't think it's that big of a problem. We always figure it out. And there's a lot of fear mongering that takes place in this. Evan, I appreciate the call.
Yeah,
thanks so much.
The question I've got for you on that one, though, is that if we decide it is not an issue, how do we figure our ways out of it? That's what kind of my point is. Well, if we sit here and say it's not a big problem, it's something that's not a big issue, how do we then possibly engineer our way out of it if we don't think it's a problem?
So I think there's a difference between climate alarmism and environmental stewardship. So,
that's fair.
Right. So I'll go like the Teddy Roosevelt Republican, right? I love national parks. I think they should be protected. Do I think BLM land in Idaho needs to be so restricted that we can't drill and frack on it? No, not at all. But I think you can be a steward of the land. You want to have clean water. You want to have clean skies. We don't want the smog in the city of Denver. That's fine. That's fine. But I think that's a leap to make a leap to going. There's massive climate change happening that's going to threaten that. Miami's going to be underwater in 6 years if we don't do something right now. All the stuff that Al Gore was claiming was going to happen, that none of it came true. That's where I go. And then you restrict business, you restrict development, you put mandates on businesses in order to feed that perception. No, I don't agree with that. So that's where I think there's a difference. All right, let's go to Max. Well, actually, let's go to Max after the break here. Billy, do you want to tell folks about Balanced Well Space?
Yeah, I got to finish talking to Jim here in just a second.
Right,
so Jim, hang with me. Oh, no. Jim, hang with me, man. I'll talk to you
off there in
a second. And we'll get to Max in a second because I got to take a moment to talk to you about Balanced Well Space. There's this amazing medical team that is transforming my life. Here's the deal. I thought that as I was getting older, I had to live with pain. I had some major surgeries 25, 30 years ago. We're talking about broken back. We're talking about a broken shoulder. I have done some stupid things. I've got a bum knee. I got a lot of things that are wrong with me. And it's not just mental. And I have found a medical team that is taking away my pain. Imagine in your life those things that ache, those things that are preventing you from living your life and doing activities you used to. Imagine if that pain wasn't there. Imagine if you had the extra rotation in your shoulders. What if your knees weren't feeling as weak? What if that neuropathy was not there anymore? How would that change and impact what you can do every day? That's what the team at Balance Wellspace can do. That's why I trust them. Check them out at balancewellspace.com. Here's what it is. This is why they make a difference. It's integrative medicine. They have combined a whole bunch of stuff into one office to take care of you. Chiropractic care, neuropathy, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and so much more. Plus, some amazing non-invasive, cutting-edge programs that are absolutely remarkable. What they can do with non-invasive programs for your neuropathy, for regenerative care, those discs in your back. I'm right now regenerating the meniscus in my left knee thanks to their help. My left knee used to be my bum knee. It's now my stronger knee. I feel better than I have in over a decade. There are times in which I'm having movement that I haven't had in 20 years. I now have complete range of motion, pain-free in my right hip. When I started, I had 30% movement that was pain-free. It's now at 100% pain-free, full range of motion. And that is just when I started working with Balance Wellspace. I want you to talk to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, the entire medical team. Let them evaluate you. Tell them what hurts and tell them what you're not doing. They then will go to work. They'll take the pictures. They'll poke the prod. And then they put together a custom-made plan for you to deal with your issues, your pain, because, again, Balance Wellspace is all about you and getting you to feel better. Then they go to work. They do all the stuff. Now, cool thing, you go to one appointment, one day. You're not driving all over the city, multiple appointments, getting all sorts of different care. They take care of it. Bang, bang, bang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you need. And it all fits inside your plan. Plus, the coolest part, they reevaluate your care regularly. I just did a reevaluation. That's how I know how well my hip is doing. They couldn't believe the range of motion that I have, and I couldn't either. I want them to make the same difference in your life they're making in mine. Check them out at balancewellspace.com. Brand new offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2. Plenty of parking. Balancewellspace.com. Make an appointment today that can change your life. You don't have to live this way. I'm not living this way anymore. You don't have to either. Balancewellspace.com. Balancewellspace.com. And do me a favor. Tell me you heard about him here on Jeff and Bill, because the change in my life has been absolutely amazing.
Great to hear that, Bill. We'll continue with your calls. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7:39 on this Thursday, September 12th. Big poll coming out on the state of Colorado. Democrats and Republicans holding starkly different views on the state's top issues. 85% of Republican respondents said illegal immigration is an extremely serious or very serious problem compared to just 26% of Democrats. Oh my gosh. I'm just so clearly a Republican some days. It's funny. Conversely,
yes, you are.
80% of Democrats said climate change. You know, the clouds and the temperature is a serious problem compared to just 9% of Republicans. Oh, my goodness. All right, let's go to Max Loveland. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning.
Good morning. So there's a guy that's local now that came from Alabama. He's a doctor of climate change type stuff, Matthew Walensky. I was thinking you guys should get him on the radio.
Do you know how to spell the last name?
Wielinski.
Okay, cool. I will look for him.
Good
Thank
Polish
you so much.
name. Or Wieliki. I'm sorry.
Wieliki,
Wieliki.
Okay, cool.
But
Thank you.
he does a lot of the debunking of the climate change hoax. Everybody agrees there's climate change. That's obvious from the fossil records. But none of the models that have been purported to be correct have proven to be even close to accurate.
I mean, do you remember like all the stuff we've been scared of? I was thinking about this the other day about how
This is a religion now.
It is like we were terrified at one point that cell phones were going to give us brain cancer, that cell phones were going to light off gas stations, that if you put hairspray in your hair, you're going to create a hole in the ozone. I saw something the other day that we now have Alzheimer's because we don't eat cholesterol, but then cholesterol.
Chlorofluorocarbons did degrade the ozone layer. Chlorofluorocarbons did do that,
and
we
then
stopped
the bees
using them,
died,
and it came down. The bees are an issue because they're pollinators, and we are losing bee populations, and there are other reasons for it. But again, I'm not sitting here saying it's because of us humans.
I have
doing
a question for you, Billy.
Absolutely.
Do you get most of your information from Google, or do you use a different search engine?
I use a variety of different search engines depending on what I'm looking for. I'm unhappy with Google, but it depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I'll lean into DuckDuckGo.
Google is getting very obvious that they suppress information.
Well,
climate change was the first one that they started with.
But that's your opinion.
No,
that
it's
suppressing.
true.
No,
well,
look
what their AI that they came out with that wouldn't paint a white guy.
But that's
it's been going on for a long time.
Hold on, but you're assuming that the reason that it didn't do that is not because the AI wasn't functioning properly, but because they did it on purpose. Yeah, I believe and I don't believe they did it on purpose because that would be a dumb thing to do on purpose. And AI is inaccurate, and everything that we're talking about AI is rather dumb because it's not intelligent in any way, shape, or form. All it does is it just scrapes all the information that's out there, and then based on how it's been programmed, it does X. I mean, anyone that tries to create any sort of art or anything through AI understands that we don't have anybody that has 7 fingers. But you can have AI generate a picture of a person and they'll have 7 fingers. It's not like the AI person that programmed that said, I think everybody needs to be 7-fingered. So I think you're drawing a conclusion that may not be there.
No, I would say that the conclusion is that I haven't used Google for a long time because the results I was getting for scientific purposes was never accurate. And so they were suppressing a bunch of stuff. And so I haven't used them forever because I can't trust the results.
Max, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Yeah. We're going to get to some of the other callers here because we got big guests coming in at 8 o'clock. Let's go to Spencer Castle Rock. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Spencer.
Morning. Hey, guys. Good morning. I wish I could have called yesterday and talked about the debate, but I'm ready to move past it.
All right. What's on
Billy,
your mind?
A couple points about the global warming, 3 to be exact, third one being most important. But I think it was this radio station that reported that the Great Barrier Reef hasn't just recovered, but it's thriving right now. And when I was 10 years old in grade school, this is 30 years ago, my teachers were telling me we had 10 years. That was 30 years ago. If we didn't do something about climate change, 10 years, it's going to be too late. That was 30 years ago that they were saying that. And the third point is, if the United States reduces its carbon footprint to 0, its CO2 output to zero, that makes no difference, because the future of climate change is going to be determined by China, Central America, South America, and India.
Because it's the easiest way to get out of poverty. Cheap, affordable energy is the easiest way to get out of poverty.
Yeah.
There was a speaker that spoke at Cambridge. I think his name was something like Chris Constant. He is not conservative. And he pointed this out. The United States, the UK, the Canada, if we reduce what we do that would affect climate change, it makes no difference, because China's poor, India's poor, Central and South America's poor are the ones that are going to determine what happens with the climate.
Yeah, I would absolutely 110% agree with you on that one, Spencer. And the issue that I have is that we decide, well, since it's China and India and Central America, the thing we shouldn't do is try to find solutions. Now, I don't agree that the solution is for us to not drive internal combustion engines. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with a large number of things that many people that are way on the left on this climate change thing propose, because I think they're too restrictive and they won't accomplish what they believe. But the idea that it doesn't exist, I think is farcical, because we've seen it over and over, and it does exist. We can argue man-caused, but we should be looking at the idea that with these things happening, we're going to have to deal with them. And how do we? And I'm worried about, on the Republican side, that people stick their head in the sand and say, nope, not going to deal with it because I don't believe it's not there. And that's not a solution. If your house is on fire, even if it's a small fire, you don't turn around and say, nah, I don't believe in the fire.
Spencer, appreciate the call. Go ahead. I'll let you wrap up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my last comment on that is, yes, absolutely. But for instance, our national debt, if the bank is getting ready to foreclose on the house, why are we focused on something that is under debate, and is not like right now instant, we need to deal with this problem first.
Right.
That's a good point.
And like with illegal immigration and Venezuelan gangs and apartment complexes in Aurora seems like a bigger priority to me.
Yeah, that's why it's not my number one. It's not even in my top 4.
Appreciate the call. We'll continue with your calls. We got almost full lines. We got one open, 303-696-1971. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Jeff and Bill show. We're talking the survey that was released that, Bill, this is why we live in the state we do.
Yes, agreed.
Where
Agreed.
Democrats are going, climate change is a really big issue. Legal immigration, not so much. And Republicans going, no, illegal immigration's a big. Have you seen what's happening in Aurora at these apartment complexes? Yeah. And climate change is not that important. And there's more Democrats, so you get priority legislation around climate change and sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. This is a perfect example, a snapshot into why Colorado is the way it is. Colorado's Health Foundation's annual poll survey, 2,400 individuals surveyed, and the biggest partisan divides were among Republicans and Democrats on illegal immigration and climate change.
That is the craziest thing of all the things. Like those are the two issues that the biggest divide. And the number one thing people are worried about is housing and prices. Yeah. And that's across the board.
And maybe
for everybody.
that's bringing everybody together, which if that's it, if housing's the top issue and price and all that, maybe it's going to bode well for Republicans. Let's go to the phone lines. Jim, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Hey, morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, climate change is not real until Florida is gone, okay? So, but I've just started to reconsider my thoughts on Florida being gone and climate change because of what Ron DeSantis did in Florida this last year. He actually just signed legislation to solve climate change in the state of Florida. He did what California did a decade ago. They are directly subsidizing the insurance companies, which I guess the insurance companies got together and they do believe in climate change.
Oh,
and these climate change guys are doubling, quadrupling the insurance.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Florida and Ron DeSantis followed California's lead. They're not advertising it, but they are subsidizing the final two insurance companies so that they don't leave the state of Florida.
Yeah, because I think State Farm has picked up already, and they're not doing anything in Florida because of this. They can't deal with it's basically hurricanes. Hurricane damage happens all the time, and it's happening more often, so they can't write the checks.
Colorado's going to lose an insurance carrier the end of this year, and all the states going to be in the same footprint. Your insurance costs, because of what's not going on around us in the climate, is going to go up. Okay, so all the states between Iowa and the East Coast are now losing money in the insurance industry. So all those insurance costs are going up, and the insurance companies are reevaluating whether they can make a profit in your state. And Florida solved it. He's gone to full socialism, just like
I was going to say,
California did.
We're just one step further to
compare
government caring for you.
Compare the two legislations from California and what Florida just did, and tell me I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. Because, I was reading all about that. I'd forgotten about that. And the other one that you bring up, and appreciate the call, Jim. I hope you have a really good day. That's a great point that the insurance companies absolutely believe in this, and they're making the choices. And they're not climate activists. They're doing it based on the actuarial tables, and they're seeing where things are happening over and over again. It was, I think, comedian Kathleen Madigan talks about the idea that the guy that is interviewed on the TV going, I can't believe I lost my house this year in the flood. And he's just as surprised as he was when he lost his house last year in the flood. Same flood, same floodplain. So surprised it happened over and over again. And the other one that Jim that didn't get time to add into was also one of the large organizations in our country that believes in climate change is the military, because they're making changes in what they're doing based on what they're seeing in climate. So, I mean, we can say it doesn't exist, but there are people out there that are doing it based on the numbers and doing it based on the dollars.
And they're all driving us towards socialism. Now, we'll continue the conversation because up next, Heidi Ganal is live in studio. She'll be taking your calls.
Yes.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you won the lottery. You're waking up in the greatest country in history. But the direction of this state and what conservatives need to do to bring this back around. And I asked Heidi, I said, would you be willing to take some calls? She's not scared of anything. No. She's happy to take your calls, so feel free to call in 303-696-1971 and talk with Heidi and I. And Bill, not going to want to miss this conversation. But first, news and commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 63 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 90 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Republicans are refusing to bend to pressure and keeping a controversial voter security plan, controversial to the lefties, as part of a larger government funding bill. It's being pushed by Congressman Chip Roy of Texas, who was in the studio with Jeff and Bill last week. And he says that a citizenship requirement is common sense.
Non-citizens will vote in the 2024 election because our system not only makes it easy to do, but incentivizes doing so. It would only take a few thousand non-citizens voting, much less than the 1.2 million estimated, to impact the outcome of our razor-thin elections. Since 2021, Texas has removed over 6,500 non-citizens from its voter rolls.
Wow. Former President Trump took to social media this week, urging his fellow Republicans not to back down. VP Kamala Khan on the campaign trail today in the key battleground state of North Carolina for a pair of rallies. Former President Trump scheduled to speak in Tucson. And a couple of days after the debate, the moderators, David Smear and Lindsay Davis, being exposed. She did this.
And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Vice President, I want to get your response. The truth is, Lindsay, in 8 states you can, and well documented in Timmy Walls, No Walls, state of Minnesota, and former communications director Brian Lanza, bulldozed by Jim Acosta on CNN on the abortion lie.
You know, Trump called his answer on abortion, quote, perfect, but when the moderators pressed him on whether he would veto a national abortion ban, he refused to answer.
I think he said it in the past that he wouldn't sign a national abortion ban, and I think J.D. Vance has also stated that. I think what he said last night is like, why are we?
But he didn't say
that's not.
He didn't say he would veto it if it got passed and got to his desk. He didn't say whether he would veto it.
I was answering the question, Jim. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think what he was saying.
Well, if you're not going to answer the question, I'm going to jump in.
I'm about to answer the question, but you keep on jumping. When I say I'm about to answer the question, that's the time you let me answer the question.
Yeah.
Well, so as I was saying and trying to answer your question, your deeply thoughted question, I think what he was trying to say last night, and I think what he has said is like, listen, he goes, the country does not support late-term abortion. I think 91% of the country feels late-term abortion is a horrific thing.
No, he said that they're in some states they're executing the babies after they're born, which is false.
Acosta back at it. A 17-year-old boy is in the hospital after he was shot in the face while looking for a place to take a homecoming photo on Tuesday. Police say he was with another teen at a property along Pleasant Road, Park Road, and was shot while he was in his car writing a note to the property owner for permission to take the photo there. The owner reportedly called her boyfriend about 2 trespassers, and police say he arrived and fired a shot through the windshield of the car. The suspect is 38-year-old town of Mountain View council member Brent Metz, and he faces several felony charges. There's no word on the victim's current condition. A red flag warning will be in effect across most of Colorado from noon until 8 tonight. Dry and windy conditions today, so please take precautions. In California, the state's largest wildfire is burning just east of LA, and we're expected to see hazy skies because of it today here on the Front Range. The investigation into the massive Alexander mountain fire in Larimer County has led to an arrest. The man in custody is 49-year-old Jason Hobby, and he's charged with first-degree arson. Hey, per Jeff and Bill's discussion on climate change, I always refer to the late great.
And the greatest arrogance of all, save the planet. What? Are these people kidding me? Save the planet? We don't even know how to take care of ourselves yet. We haven't learned how to care for one another. We're going to save the planet? I'm getting tired of that. Tired. I'm tired of Earth Day. I'm tired of these self-righteous environmentalists.
All right, I had to put Carlin in there. 4 universities are set to join the Pac-12 conference, including Colorado State, Boise State, Fresno State, and San Diego State. They'll leave the Mountain West Conference and join the Pac-12 in 2026 and 27. They will join Oregon State and Washington State to make up a 6-team conference. Those 2 schools remain as the Pac-12 and 10 others left to join the other conferences. The Pac-12 will need to add 2 more schools to meet the NCAA minimum requirement. Will Air Force and Wyoming be left out? We'll see. 60 in Westminster, Castle Pines, it's 59, and 63 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue Thursday. Blake Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast calls for temps to warm up quickly this Thursday. We'll be seeing some increasing west to southwest winds through the mid and late day hours. Highs today topping off near 90. Weak frontal system passes this evening and tonight, low to mid 50s. Milder, more seasonal like temperatures for Friday, low to mid 80s, sunny, dry, very nice. Middle to a few upper 80s, sunny and dry this weekend. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088.
Billy, I am so excited because I adore Heidi Canal. I just think that she would be so much better. I think about this all the time. I'm like, could you imagine the state of Colorado with Heidi Canal as governor instead of Jared Polis? But here we are. We got Jared Polis, but I'm just so honored to have Heidi Canal joining us live in studio. She's the founder of Rocky Mountain Voice. She's done a whole lot of things. Camp Bow Wow. By the way, her and Jason Goodall own my very favorite barbecue restaurant, GQ Barbecue, which is, I mean, you guys you're at Park Meadows. That's where I eat, but you're now down at Coors Field. You're at Mile High Stadium. That is doing really, really well.
Thanks, Jeff. It's great barbecue, and I take no credit for that. I'm a terrible cook, terrible cook. And my husband, I don't know that he takes advice from me on business. Like, he does his own thing. He's doing fine. But yeah, he's got one out at Belmar and Lakewood. They're opening one in Thornton now. They're opening one in Tinmouth. So they're growing like crazy.
Every time I go in, it's jam-packed. I'm not kidding you. Every single table is full. And they've got incredible barbecue and beer and whiskey. And it's so fresh. The food is, oh my gosh, I'm getting hungry even thinking about it. But GQ Barbecue is their restaurant, and it's absolutely fantastic. You got to visit it. All right, Heidi, it's been a few years since the race, and you're still in the game. We were just talking about how many people run for office, and maybe it doesn't work out the first time. Thank God Abraham Lincoln didn't just disappear, right? He faced his own challenges running for Senate. But you ran for governor against Jared Polis 2022. Not a great year for Republicans. Hopefully could have been, but it wasn't. And you're still in the game. You're doing Rocky Mountain Voice. Why are you still fighting for conservative values in the state of Colorado?
Well, because Jeff, I didn't run for governor just to run for governor. I ran as part of a bigger effort to take back our state and bring us back to the values that built Colorado into such an incredible place. The rugged individualism, the wild, wild west, the new frontier. That's what Colorado is. And we've gotten so far away from that. We're literally a bureaucratic, gross, like government run blah, it drives me crazy. It's
Yeah.
the exact opposite of the spirit of Colorado, which is why so many people moved here and then they vote for the exact opposite. And anyone who thinks that Jared Polis is a stinking libertarian is
I know.
nuts.
Dana Perino.
Oh, she drives me crazy.
We have a message for you. Jared Polis is not a libertarian.
And John Stossel, of all people,
Yeah.
said he was
Yeah,
a
they get
libertarian.
kinda pulled into that.
I emailed back and forth with John Stossel quite a bit on that front. I sent him like 45 different examples with the help of John Caldera's articles about why Jared Polis was anything but a libertarian. But all you have to look at is the size of the growth of government since he's been in place.
Yes.
The government spending, the size of the bureaucracy, the number of people who work for the government in Colorado since he took office. Oh my gosh, it's exploded.
Right. So what happened to Colorado? When I grew up here, it was a red state. We went for Bush 2 years in a row. Bill Owens was the governor. Republicans. It was a Western Republican state. And kind of like California, it's now gone not just a little bit blue, but deep, deep blue. To where Republicans are. We were pointing this out on the show. We have fewer registered Republicans now, even though we've added 1.3 million people to the state in the last 12 years. We have fewer registered Republicans now than we did 12 years ago.
Well, there's a few problems. One is that the 4 billionaires got together and put together a very specific campaign to turn Colorado blue, and we got caught flat-footed. And those are the people that have run Colorado for 20 years on the political side, and they're still involved in the game, and they shouldn't be. They gave our state
that's
away.
Tim Gill, that's Jared Polis, Pat Stryker, and there's always one more. I forgot.
Rep Bridges. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So they wanted it.
They wanted it
They
because
got together and they're like, we want the state.
it was all about gay marriage back then.
Yeah.
So that led us off onto a path that wasn't very helpful. And then marijuana was legalized and Californians are moving in. We've got a beautiful state that lots of folks want to live here. And the marijuana thing is interesting. That's brought in a type of voter that leans heavily into government and big government. And hey, I'll take any help I can get from the subsidies, from the big hand of government. So I think that's kind of the gist there. And then honestly, our Republican Party has done a pretty bad job over the last couple of decades of building a ground game, building good donor relationships, and building a messaging machine. And so after the race, it's almost been 2 years. 2-year anniversary is coming up soon. And I don't want to really love that night. That was bad.
You're right.
But it taught me so much about what's broken in our system and how to rebuild. And there's 3 things we've got to do. We've got to build our own messaging machine because the dang liberal media won't let us get our word out. You're doing a great job of that, Jeff. You and Bill are actually helping that movement. And then the second thing we've got to do is get good data and technology. I'm a business person, and the data and tech that we have is lacking tremendously. And it was very difficult to run a statewide race without a good app, a good tech platform, a good way to organize our information about voters, about donors. So that's the second problem. The third problem is, of course, this is no surprise, our conservative movement is very disjointed. We're all working in silos. So rather than build another blob organization that everybody should join, our theory is we're going to rebuild the conservative movement one grassroots group at a time. We're all very independent-minded, us conservatives. And so rather than convincing people that their way of building community and collaboration isn't the right way, let's just give them support, help everybody grow. We've got 85 groups we're helping with this Road to Red project across the state, all over the state, little groups, big groups. And if we can all help them double in size and triple in size, then there you've got your movement. It's rebuilt again. So we're building a messaging machine, investing in good data and technology outside of the party. We are not tied to the Republican Party. This is an individual effort. And then the third thing is rebuilding the grassroots movement one group at a time.
I love that. And I love the fact you're still in it. I want to get to these 3. Help people understand how you picked yourself back up after the loss. I've been with candidates. I've cried with candidates that lost because they give their hearts and souls to these things. They work really, really hard, and there's big things at stake. This isn't just, a volunteer thing you're going to do on the side. You really believe in the direction of a state. You go out there, you meet with voters, you make your case, and then there's timing gets into it, funding gets in. There's a lot of reasons why. But after what you went through, you decided, I'm still going to get in the fight. Talk to me about that progression after the campaign lost to where you are now?
So, Jeff, those that know my history, I'm kind of a comeback kid. I even did a TED talk about it called The Art of the Comeback. I did that 10 years ago. I think it's been now. So I've been through a lot in my life. I lost my first husband in a plane crash at the age of 27. I got a settlement from that plane crash and managed to mess that up and lost that and came back and built Camp Bow Wow up out of passion and love for dogs. And then the market crash of 2008 almost took that company out. So I had to kind of reconfigure and rebuild at that point. I've just been through lots of ups and downs. And so I'm used to coming back from adversity. Even had a brain tumor and brain surgery right before I jumped into the governor's race. And everyone was like, oh, well, now you're not going to run. I'm like, nah, actually, they took out that tumor. They took out my filter. I'm feistier than ever. I'm going to do it. And it wasn't cancer, but it was pretty serious and it was scary. So I got to taste the winning side when I ran for regent in 2016. And I pulled off a surprise and beat Alice Madden, one of the crafters of the blueprint with Jared Polis in 2016, when I shouldn't have won, when Hillary Clinton took our state. And so I knew that I had a sense of what was going on around Colorado. And I had that same sense when I ran for governor, but I thought I could outwork the money. And I hate to say it, money wins elections.
Yep, right.
And so that was one of the lessons I learned. The other lesson was that the liberal media controlled the narrative all day long. People would say, why are you talking about this issue? I'm like, I'm not talking about the issue. The liberal media is tying me to that issue. We talked a little bit about this before we got on air. And so we've got to figure out how to solve that problem. The third thing is I grew to love all the people of the grassroots of Colorado. And I felt so indebted to them for their passion around my campaign that after the election, I was like, I cried on the couch for a while.
And rightfully so.
Oh, it was brutal. It was brutal, mostly for my family. And I felt so responsible for all the people that were so invested in my race.
Right.
It broke my heart. It broke my heart to know what was coming for Colorado because I knew enough then about policy and how bad things were going to get with them having so much power. And so then I got my feistiness back a few months later. I went and visited other states. This is how I kind of got back in the game. Where they had flipped from blue to red. I said, how did you do this? How did you tactically do it? And I landed on a model down in Texas where they've done really great things at rebuilding the grassroots down there, rebuilding the Republican Party, rebuilding their movement. And they've had a lot of wins lately. And that's out of a decade's worth of work. So this is not a short-term play. What I'm doing is building infrastructure. It's not sexy. It's not investing in the latest, greatest candidate or latest, greatest ballot initiative. This is so that we can win in 4 years, 6 years, 8 years.
I love that. Let's talk a little bit about the money issue because it is really important for people to understand this. You got 4 billionaires. They essentially get everybody in a room and they go, this is what we're doing. It comes from the billionaires. It doesn't come from the grassroots. And then they go, because we're writing the check, you're going to do what we tell you to do. Okay. With conservatives, it's the opposite way. We tend to be organized by the grassroots, but our billionaires are also just different in nature. Okay. For them, politics is one of many things they're doing. They're supporting their churches. They're supporting these nonprofits, that nonprofit. They're not thinking all day, every day about politics the way liberal billionaires think about it. So they're not going to get people in a room and want to direct the direction of the Republican Party in the same way that the leftist billionaires are doing it. So we have almost like totally different structures that we're trying to figure out. And I've been trying to say this to the donor class here in Colorado is like, you guys need to really provide some direction here because it is these little grassroots groups. They're all trying to figure it out and they have no money. They can't make any impact. And so it's like 10 of them and they meet regularly on a Thursday. So they need leadership and guidance. This doesn't mean that, we're going back to kind of the country club Republican investment, but these people that are very successful in business, very successful in moving things forward, need to provide some leadership and guidance to the Republican Party.
They do. And they need to understand that there's a big split and there's no trust. And so part of what we've got to do is build trust between the donors, the grassroots, the leaders in our state. And so I built a great relationship with a lot of those donors. Call them establishment. There's other ones that aren't. I'm trying to get new people involved too. Like lots of my entrepreneur friends and people who haven't invested in politics came along on my race. because I didn't have a lot of the establishment donor support on my race. They went to Joe O'Dea, the money did. And so that was a bit frustrating. And so the relationships I built with the people who are newer donors to the conservative effort in Colorado are really understanding what we're doing. They're part of what I'm building, and they get that we need to build infrastructure. It's just like a business, right? So I feel optimistic in that regard. Some of the old consultants that have been around a long time need to go bye-bye.
Need to go bye-bye, huh?
Yeah.
Well, those are strong words.
They are strong words. Like, the same few people have run Colorado politics for a long time, and they get paid a lot of money, whether we win or lose. And so what we're trying to do is build a infrastructure that allows candidates and ballot initiatives go forward without writing big checks to these same people who have run Colorado politics for 20 years and done a horrible job of it and landed us where we are today.
Do you think there's a way to incorporate them?
They don't want to win, obviously.
Really?
I don't think
You
so,
think they
Jeff.
don't want to win?
Well, the money's more important than winning. Let's put it that way. It's very frustrating. And so we've got to work around them and make it so that we've got to provide incentives so that if they win, they get paid, like the money and the winning align.
Right.
That's what the Democrats do.
Huh.
So that's a little in the weeds. But I think at the end of the day, we've got to build the messaging machine so we can ignore the liberal media and get our word out to folks across Colorado.
Let's talk about that. Heidi Ganahl, founder, Rocky Mountain Voice, joining us live in studio here. The media machine. You saw it on full display during the debate.
Oh,
right?
So
you're like, here's the ABC, like 85% of whatever they do is negative of Donald Trump. And then it's a 3-on-1 battle. And by the way, Joe from Arvada, we got so many texts about you yesterday saying it was 1 American versus 3 communists. That was like the line of the day that came there. But look, it's dying. The mainstream media is dying. Nobody trusts it anymore. Nobody that on my side watches Channel 9, for instance, because you've seen it over and over and over again, where Channel 9, primarily by Kyle Clark, is just so motivated to drive an agenda. And then this bizarre, I mean, everybody can see it, bizarre fixation on Republican women.
I've been the target there.
Right? It's you, it's KBB, it's
Lauren
Boebert, right? I think the only thing Kyle Clark has ever said complimentary to Lauren Boebert was when Holtorf slammed what she was saying or what she was wearing on our show. That was the only time I've ever heard Kyle Clark say anything nice about Lauren Boebert, and it was more of a slam against Richard Holtorf than it was anything else. So talk to us about Rocky Mountain Voice and what you're trying to build there.
So Kyle and 9 News are such a detriment to Colorado. I mean, they just report in a way that doesn't give voters or the people of Colorado a fair perspective on what's happening. And the latest target is Danielle Jurinsky.
Right.
So add another conservative woman to the list. But he likes to make a mockery out of us or make fun of us or belittle us. And that's not fair to the people of Colorado to hear their news from that perspective.
Right. No. His agenda is to make Republicans look like extremists. Every news story is put through that filter. So let's talk about, for instance, Aurora, right? Here you had video evidence. You have people texting, law enforcement texting, and this shouldn't have been a national story, right? Okay, so some gangs are intimidating people in an apartment complex. That happens in every major city in this country. Could have easily been taken care of. But because it was the feature of Danielle Jurinsky's imagination or far extremist right-wing organizations pushing this, they actually made it a national story by trying to push it into that agenda because their motivation was, we want to make conservatives look like extremists. That's all that comes out of Next in Channel 9 these days.
That's right. And it's starting to backfire on them. That's why it became a national story.
Right.
And it's making them look ridiculous and extreme. Jared Polis and Kyle Clark are one and the same, basically. They work together. And it's just ridiculous when you see the video footage and what's happening in Aurora for them to deny what's happening. So
it's a series of code violations. That's what they said. It was a series of code violations. And you enforce those code violations with people dressed as Venezuelan gangs carrying long guns, apparently.
Oh,
Please continue.
Gosh. So that being said, coming out of the governor's race, I realized that we had to come up with a solution to deal with the media here in Colorado. And in Texas, they did this with, it's called Texas Scorecard. They built an army of grassroots citizen journalists, people reporting, all getting together and building a news organization so that they could basically ignore the liberal media and didn't have to talk to them. And if a candidate wants to do an interview, they do an interview with Scorecard, and then the Dallas Morning News calls and the candidate can say, hey, look at my interview on Scorecard and we'll talk. So what we're building with Rocky Mountain Voice, it's a nonprofit news organization. So there's no ads, sponsors, paywalls. It's free. It aggregates news. So it brings all of us citizen journalists and people with great shows like yours, Jeff, podcasters, radio shows on one platform. So it's one website that brings them all together. And then we have original content. And Brian Porter is our editor and publisher. He was in charge of all the Northeastern papers for many years. He's from Texas originally. And get this, Brian was the president of the Colorado Press Association.
Right.
He went to work for us and they forced him to resign because he went to work for me and he was working for an unabashedly right of center news organization is what we say. So that's what we're dealing with, which is fine. He was like, whatever. But what we're building is a way to get our values out to the people of Colorado, our solutions, so that we don't have to talk to the liberal media anymore.
Yeah, right.
And trying to get truth out there, the truth about what's happening.
Yep.
And just every piece of news is biased in some way, but as unbiased as we possibly can, just presenting the facts and the truth about what's happening to our state right now.
Talking with Heidi Ganahl. You know her as the Republican nominee for governor in 2022, founder of Camp Bow Wow, founder of Rocky Mountain Voice, founder of She Factor. She's a serial entrepreneur. We're going to continue this conversation. And by the way, feel free to give us a call. She's willing to take questions. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We are honored to have live in studio Heidi Ganahl. She's the founder of Rocky Mountain Voice. She was the Republican gubernatorial nominee in 2022, and our state would be so much better if Jared Polis wasn't there. I bet
just for a second, I bet that if Heidi was in the governor's mansion, she wouldn't talk about Venezuelan gangs being imaginary.
Yes, that is exactly right.
It's just a thought in my head. I'm not sure if I'm right, but
I do want to point this out. Jared Polis is pretty low on the national Democratic totem pole. If you watch the DNC, I mean, Jason Crow is definitely getting more love from national Democrats than Jared Polis is. Heidi, I mean, do you think this is the end of Jared Polis's career? I don't know where he makes any other leap. Maybe the senator, but he's not. I mean, he got 3 minutes scripted on the national stage. I don't see him. I don't see him. Yeah,
3 minutes of inaccurate stuff.
Yeah, and even everybody beat that up.
Yeah, how badly do you have to set him up to send him out there and have him tell lies for 3 minutes?
He is not going to be the first gay president.
Yeah, no,
Pete Buttigieg is way further ahead on that than he is. I mean, did you see? Do you think that Jared's kind of done after this?
Nothing would make me happier. Although
that's the best answer.
I was looking forward to just being the pit bull to go after him on the national stage. I know so much about him, and so many creepy, weird things happen behind the scenes in the governor's race that I have stories about, like how he, I don't know, just how he interacted with me and my team and his team did. So I've got a lot of stuff if he does decide to go national to have some fun with.
Yeah, man, I don't think the national Democrats are all that excited about him. I don't know what that says about him. Let's talk Trump. Let's talk this upcoming election. You think Donald Trump's going to be the next president of the United States?
I think it depends. I hope so. But I think we're running against the media. We're running against the money. We're running against, the justice system. So there's a lot going on, but man, if anybody can do it, Donald Trump can do this and get through this. And man, the guy got shot and stood up and kept fighting. So,
and the media is not even going to ask him about that in a debate.
Heck no, they tried to pivot when he brought it up.
Exactly.
That debate made me so mad, Jeff, because I was like, this is just everything that's happening in a nutshell in this race right here up on the TV. And then to hear some people at our debate watch party who aren't in the conservative kind of day-to-day grind say, Kamala sounds actually pretty reasonable. She sounds pretty good. And I'm like, she's a flipping communist. She's doing exactly what she wants to do, is to sound reasonable and scripted and calm. And she's a lunatic. So that bugged me. And I knew coming out of there that she put on a pretty good performance. It was full of lies and manipulations, but and I have an article coming out on Rocky Mountain Voice today about her lies about abortion and Trump's stance on abortion. But man, Jeff, I think we're up against so much. I'm worried, but if anybody can do it, Donald Trump can.
Well, let's talk about the Democrat base. It's definitely women, right? And it's almost kind of interesting that the parties have split this way, but at the DNC, they Oprah-fied her, Kamala Harris, so they made her your gal pal. And then they Obama-fied her, which is, this is a historic election. You can change this country's history by putting in the first black woman president, okay? And people are motivated by it. How does the Trump campaign communicate to those voters that are drawn in by the Oprah-fication of her, of making her the gal pal, and the sense that they're participating in history? I mean, you see it in Taylor Swift's endorsement, right? You see that exact line in Taylor Swift's endorsement. So how does Trump break through to that?
Just stay with the day-to-day issues that everyday Americans are dealing with: inflation, the economy, the effects of the open border. Like, make it real, make it relatable to things that are happening to Americans in their everyday life. They can't afford to get an apartment. They can't afford to grocery shop. They can't leave their car unlocked outside anymore. I mean, those are the stories. And what I loved about the RNC convention, I went with my dad, who was a delegate. We had a blast. Were the everyday American stories. That's what needs to happen. He needs to be the president of the people, the president for the people. And he's doing a pretty good job of that. And I think in the debate, he had some great moments where he basically talked to the American people like, I am here for you. I'm here to fix this crap. I don't have to be here. I could be on the beach. I could be on the golf course, but I am fighting for you. And that's what I hoped he would do in the debate, was look into the camera and say, I just took a bullet for you. I just took a bullet for you, and I am going to fight this battle so that you can have your American way back.
Now, that's interesting. Heidi Ganahl, founder of Rocky Mountain Voice, here in studio. Do you think Trump has that message discipline? You've been a candidate out there on the road. Personally, over the previous 8-9 years, I haven't seen any message discipline like that from Trump. Is that something he can accomplish?
Bill, that's because you're watching CNN.
That's good.
I think that, yes, he's absolutely doing that every day, but he's doing it on podcasts. He's doing it on smaller radio shows. He's doing it at his rallies. He's doing it in a way to talk to the people. And his son, Barron, has been tying him to all these podcasters, these big podcasters. I think that's a brilliant strategy. And young people are starting to get it. I don't know if you've seen the TikTok trend going on right now, but they eat dogs. It's playing off of that whole thing. It's a huge TikTok trend, and kids are kind of getting into it. And they're realizing that the media is lying to them, that the Democrats are lying to them, and they're starting to mock them back, which is what this TikTok trend is about. So I think that's an interesting thing happening. But at the end of the day, you know who I think is going to drive this home is J.D. Vance. He is kicking butt on the campaign trail.
You think so?
Really?
Yeah,
That's
I do.
I want to hear that. Yeah.
I'm watching his speeches. I'm watching his media interactions. And you've got Vivek and you've got Tulsi Gabbard. I just went to the Tucker Carlson show and watched Tulsi. She did a fantastic job up on stage. So he has some, and Robert Kennedy Jr., Nicole Shanahan. Nicole Shanahan needs to be out front talking to women across America about our health issues and making America healthy again. I think that's a missed opportunity right now.
I think you're exactly right. That's a really good point.
The J.D. Vance thing I'm really curious about, because his approval rating, his positives are the lowest of all four of them. He's a -10 right now. How does he become a good messenger if, based on views of the electorate, he's viewed the most negatively out of Trump, Vance, Walz, and Harris? How does he become an effective messenger then? How would you do it? How would you accomplish it if someone that you were working with or running with had a -10?
I'm talking about his everyday conversations and talking to one voter group at a time. I mean, he is a Midwesterner. He's lived the American dream, coming out of poverty and drug addiction and everything he went through with his family. He's telling those stories. And when he gets on that debate stage against Walz, he's going to shine. I know it. And I have a very good feeling about that. But I think Trump's surrogates are doing incredible work for him. And I'm excited to see RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard are doing a rally together, I think, in Arizona in the next few days. But the media won't cover that. So we've got to get it out through alternative channels and through the people online that are building around the liberal media. Goes back to that theme.
Talking with Heidi Ganahl. She's the founder of Rocky Mountain Voice. If you want to be a part of Rocky Mountain Voice, go to RockyMountainVoice.com. RockyMountainVoice.com. They send out regular emails kind of updating you on all the news. You can subscribe to that for free. They have a speakers bureau plus a calendar of all the events, and you can listen and watch stuff there as well. So it's a great resource here in the state of Colorado. My sense is that it comes down to Pennsylvania. Okay, so I play around those little maps, right? Yeah. Trump can lose Michigan, he can lose Wisconsin, so long as he wins Georgia, Nevada, and then it comes down to Pennsylvania. I worked for Rick Santorum, who lost Pennsylvania by 16 percentage points, 2006. So I'm a little bearish on whether or not Pennsylvania will go that route. Is that your sense too? Do you think it'll come down to that state?
Well, I think Scott Pressler's doing amazing work of registering voters there. Yesterday, we launched an effort through all of our grassroots work, the Road to Red Project, called the Election Day Dash. It's rtr-dash.com. It's on all our social media, my social media. There's a story about it on Rocky Mountain Voice. It's a really simple way to help in Pennsylvania using the Turning Point Action app. It's free. It's easy to use. You can go in and call, text, or send postcards to swing voters in Pennsylvania. That's a way that Colorado voters can help win this presidential race, because I agree with you, Jeff. We can't win the presidency without Pennsylvania.
I think it comes down to that. How long is it going to take Colorado to turn around?
4 to 6 years. If we
think so?
Yeah, if we keep having donors invest in what we're doing and rebuilding this infrastructure. I mean, we've already got 150,000 people on Rocky Mountain Voice. It's growing every week by about 5 to 10,000 people that are tired of the liberal media, tired of listening to them. And then on the grassroots side, we've got 80 plus groups that we're helping around the state. We help them get big and strong and grow. Those are all very positive signs about how to get back on track. We're hosting a Wide Open Saloon is hosting a big rally on Sunday night, the 15th, this Sunday at 5:00. And I get to speak. Lauren Boebert's going to be there. Valdemar Archuleta, who's running a CD1, is going to be there. John Fabricatori is going to be there. Sergey from CD7 is going to be there. It's going to be a great time. Danielle Jurinsky's there. So
that sounds fun.
That's a way that we build community. We have fun again as conservatives. And that's what we're trying to help do with this rally is get everybody at the Wide Open Saloon on Sunday night to celebrate the conservative movement and just ignore all the drama going on with the state party and everything politically speaking on the other side. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great time. And it's important that everybody show up. Like you've got to show up and build community and build camaraderie so we don't feel so alone out there.
I love that idea because it's not leaning into the Civil War aspect of the party. It's the idea that, okay, even if someone agrees that Dave Williams is the leader of the party, someone agrees that Eli Bremer is the leader of the party, it doesn't mean we ignore the work that has to be done in the fall. Because regardless of who sits behind that desk leading the party, there still is an election to win. And there are, as... am I really going to do this? Okay, I'm going to quote Kamala Harris. There are more things that bring us together rather than separate us. So I think that's a wonderful message. Yeah, I feel so unburdened now. Thank you.
I'm glad you feel like it's 4 to 6 years. I think it's 25.
Yeah, the 4 to 6 years. I love that.
I think it's 25 years, and I'll tell you why. When I talk to progressives, there's a worldview issue that needs to be disrupted, right? So they genuinely believe that the government is here to help. Right. And then they buy into these ideas of, killing offspring. And then, like we said, climate change is the number one issue. How do you believe that climate change, there's a poll that came out, is like serious 80% of Democrats believe climate change is a serious issue that needs to be addressed. And so I sit here and I go, how did we get so many people to believe that worldview? Government run education. Until that's disrupted, right? Because that's what it's become. These are kids that can't read, they can't write, they can't do math, but they sure are really good progressive activists, right? By like every measure. That's what we've done with our government-run education. And until that's disrupted, which is going to take a generation or two to do, you're going to continue with little drones that come out and say, climate change is the number one issue. I want to kill my own offspring, and I believe the government is here to help.
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. I'm just more optimistic because I see the numbers. So in the 22 election, there were 4.4 million registered voters in Colorado. 2 million people sat at home and didn't vote in the governor's race.
Wow.
So we lost by about 400,000 votes. And so of those 2 million, if we can get them excited about a vision for Colorado that isn't government-run education, isn't not being able to afford a house, isn't people pooping on the sidewalk, then that's not that hard to do. So if we can convince 500,000 people that there's a different way, back to the old way of Colorado, the rugged individualism, the Wild West, entrepreneurial spirit, then we've got a win on the board. So it's a numbers game. And if with the right investments, with the right building of infrastructure, we can get those numbers.
I think Heidi Ganahl could turn the state around. Well, another guy doing great work is Dan Kaplis with Dan Kaplis Law. Look, I've known Dan for well over a decade. This guy's pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. He suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Yeah, if you show up with one of those trial attorneys you found on the side of a bus, it's not going to send a good message. Dan Kaplis is the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more than just being with us on values, Dan is a true winner in the courtroom. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to win the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted that they are the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. You must be going, well, then he's just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Well, Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call. Even if you're not in a car accident right now, put his phone number in your phone, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancapluslaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLISlaw.com. We'll get to your calls next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Heidi Ganal live in studio, followed by Gay Ribble. Gay's already here. Hi, Gay. We're going to talk about housing issues next, but let's go to the phone lines. Joan Lakewood, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show with Heidi Ganal. Good morning.
Good morning. First thing I'd like to say is thank you, Heidi, for continuing on. I know so many candidates that run get beat right into the ground and don't continue. So
thanks,
thank you
Joan.
for all years of service that you're doing, because it is personal. You know, people say, "Oh, I'm running," and it's not. It is personal, very personal. And thank you for doing that. And the other thing I wanted to say is I'm very, very much with you on this Colorado consultant group that needs to go. And I have a theory on why the Colorado consultant groups don't win. And it has to do with the fact that if they get somebody elected to Congress or they get somebody elected further up, other national consulting groups come in and fish their local person out.
That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you know it's all about the money, and they just want to get their money, but they don't want to win, because then that candidate would go on to somebody else.
Joan, I really appreciate the call. We're wrapping up here. Heidi, I'll give the closing comments to you.
Well, thanks, Joan. I appreciate your support. And yeah, I think we've got a lot of issues we're trying to solve here in Colorado, but I'm optimistic. I want to get us back to the wild west.
She is optimistic. Go to RockyMountainVoice.com to join Heidi Ganal. Thanks so much for being in the studio. Gay Ribble's up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, September 12th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls, because this right here is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after the news with Blake Olson, Gay Ribbles in studio.
This is so exciting.
She probably doesn't hear me talk about her every day. I mean,
Not
maybe
every
she's
day.
a fan, but
Yeah,
I do.
but,
I do personal endorsements for Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, and I say this every time. She is like this bright light. Just such a joyful person to work with. And if you've got to sell your home, you know, it's one of the most stressful things you're going to go through. It's a big transaction. You got to deal with negotiations with the purchaser. You got to deal with home inspection issues, all that stress. You want to work with somebody that's just really radiating joy. And that's who Gay Ribble is. So we're very happy to have her. Billy and I have
This is amazing.
This is going to be
So
a fun show. We just wrapped up with Heidi Ganol, by the way. Now Gay Ribble. We're having a fun day today. So you're
you
going to
guys
be
are
a
so
part.
sweet, and I am a fan. So thank you for having me.
Gay Ribble will be answering all your questions about the sale of your home, the housing industry, how things are going out here. So if you'd like, feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971. We'll get to her in just a second, but first, news and commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy and Gay. It is 68 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 90 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Broomfield police responding to what they called an active shooting at an apartment complex near the former First Bank Center. Just before 8 this morning, officers were on the scene at the Arista Flats apartments. They've sent residents shelter-in-place notifications, but limited evacuations have been done. Police say that it is a very dangerous scene, and shots are still being fired. A red flag warning will be in effect across most of Colorado from noon until 8 o'clock tonight. Dry and windy conditions today, so please take precautions. In California, the state's largest wildfire is burning just east of LA, and we are expected to see hazy skies because of it today here on the Front Range. The investigation into the massive Alexander Mountain fire in Larimer County has led to an arrest. The man in custody is 49-year-old Jason Hobby, and he is charged with first-degree arson.
The rugged individualism, the wild, wild west, the new frontier. That's what Colorado is. And we've gotten so far away from that. We're literally a bureaucratic, gross, like government-run, blah.
Exactly. Heidi Ganol, founder of Rocky Mountain Voice, who ran for governor, in the studio last hour. And with all the distractions, lies, misinformation, Ganol feels the need to remind people that even so-called conservatives who think this, that Governor Jared Polis is not a libertarian.
Anyone who thinks that Jared Polis is a stinking libertarian is nuts. And John Stossel, of all people.
Yeah.
Said he was a libertarian.
Pulled into that.
I emailed back and forth with John Stossel quite a bit on that front. I sent him like 45 different examples with the help of John Caldera's articles, why Jared Polis was anything but a libertarian. But all you have to look at is the size of the growth of government since he's been in place. The government spending, the size of the bureaucracy, the number of people who work for the government in Colorado since he took office. Oh my gosh, it's exploded.
Republicans are refusing to bend to pressure and keeping a controversial voter security plan, controversial to lefties, as part of a larger government funding bill. It's being pushed by Congressman Chip Roy of Texas, who was in the studio last week, and he says a citizenship requirement is common sense.
Non-citizens will vote in the 2024 election because our system not only makes it easy to do, but incentivizes doing so. It would only take a few thousand non-citizens voting, much less than the 1.2 million estimated, to impact the outcome of our razor-thin elections. Since 2021, Texas has removed over 6,500 non-citizens from its voter rolls.
Former President Trump took to social media this week, urging his fellow Republicans not to back down. VP Harris on the campaign trail today in the key battleground state of North Carolina for a pair of rallies. Former President Trump scheduled to speak in Tucson. And a couple of days after the debate, the lies from Harris continue to pile up, even though she wasn't fact-checked all night like the one they've used 1,000 times.
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
And you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay?
A 17-year-old boy is in the hospital after he was shot in the face while looking for a place to take a homecoming photo on Tuesday. Police say he was with another teen at a property along Pleasant Park Road and was shot in the car while he was writing a note to the property owner for permission to take the photos there. The owner reportedly called her boyfriend about two trespassers, and police say he arrived and fired a shot through the windshield of the car. The suspect is 38-year-old town of Mountain View council member Brent Metz, and he faces several felony charges. There is no word on the victim's current condition. 65 in North Glen, 66 in Glendale, and 68 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
KNUS forecast calls for temps to warm up quickly this Thursday. We'll be seeing some increasing west to southwest winds through the mid and late day hours. Highs today topping off near 90. Weak frontal system passes this evening and tonight, low to mid 50s. Milder, more seasonal like temperatures for Friday, low to mid 80s, sunny, dry, very nice. Middle to a few upper 80s, sunny and dry this weekend. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088.
All right, we've all got family members, friends, even neighbors that are real estate agents, and they sure want your business, but can they sit down with you and show you a book of pre-approved buyers, 14,700 of them? Probably not, because the only person I've ever met that has a contact database that big is Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, and we can't do what we do on this station because there's no government line item in the budget. For the Jeff and Bill show, we can do what we get to do, which is the right, left, and center conversation happening in the city of Denver because of the support of Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. And she swung by and joining us live in studio. Kay, thanks so much for being here.
It is always one of my greatest pleasures to be here. I love it.
So let's dive in to the current real estate market. What trends are you seeing right now?
Oh boy, the market has been just up and down for so long that the trend continues, that it's
really
an up and down market, right? I mean, right now our inventory is high. We're at about 10,000 houses on the market in the metro area, 7 counties that make up Metro Denver. In March, that was 6,000. So it's growing. It is not growing because there's more people selling. In fact, there's really not a lot of people selling. People are, they like their 3% interest rate.
Right. You feel like a king.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason is that houses are stacking up. So days on market have really increased.
Wow.
In 2022, we had 1,400 houses on the market. and average days on market was 3. So today we have 10,000 houses on the market, and average days on market is 73.
From 3 to 73.
Yeah, so I don't even know
So that's
how many.
over 2.5 months now.
Yeah, yeah.
That a house will sit.
And a balanced market. So in Colorado or in the Denver area, we like to see about 9,000 houses on the market. We're at 10,000.
Okay.
We like to see a balanced market. We say is about 90 days of inventory. So we're getting close to that. So we're really right now at about a balanced market, which actually has been the goal. So people think, oh, it's such a bad market. Well, no, it really isn't a bad market. Now, remember, in 2009, at the peak of the market, we had 46,000 houses on the market.
Wow.
And 9 months to sell a house. So this is not a bad market, but people think it is because it's just changed, right? And it's ever changing. It's changed. And so, and they say 85% of the realtors out there have never worked in a market that was balanced or heavy, more falling to the buyer side. And so there's a lot of agents out there who are really out of their comfort zone because they got used to a seller's market. So it's always fascinating and interesting. Of course, I've been here forever. I've been selling real estate for 32 years. So I've seen them all. And so, I think this is great.
But it's got to change the dynamic between the real estate agents and everybody else. How's that been?
It's everybody else. But I think my son was telling me the other day, he's in the wedding venue business and he sees it there too. But he said, it's like after 2020, everybody went into their caves and they came out as Neanderthals. And, there's some truth to that. I just think that people have lost their kindness or their patience, their grace for their fellow man in general. In real estate, it's stressful. Right? You've got realtors running around that haven't sold very many houses. Last year, the average realtor sold 2 houses. And that's down from the average realtor selling 6. So people, they're not making money and they're stressed. Their clients are stressed. When a house doesn't sell, the seller blames the agent, not the market or the pricing or the condition of the house, but always the agent. And so there's just a lot of stress in the industry. And we see it frequently. Yeah.
Well, and kindness matters. As I mentioned, this is one of the most stressful things you'll go through. And people get that pressure from family members and neighbors and all that stuff. And what I try to remind them, particularly with you, because they may not know you and now they're interested in hiring you, is that this is a business deal for your family. So you want to get the most you possibly can. You want to hire the most talented agent you can. And you provide a lot of interesting promises, right? That if it doesn't sell at the rate, you'll buy the house.
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand that.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of different guarantees and there's different stipulations that come with all of them, of course. We're more in the business of selling houses than buying houses. So if I were having to buy houses all the time, then that would be a problem, right? The great thing is that we sell our houses and that the guarantee is there, it backs us, but really it's not the guarantee that is the cause of our success. It's the success in helping people to sell their house.
Now, I grew up in Colorado, moved away for a little bit, came back. Colorado's always been through these seasons, as you mentioned, good years where a lot of people are trying to move in and want to be a part of what we're happening here. And I think I've seen reports that some now trying to get out of Colorado. Give us a sense of where we are, in this cycle.
Yeah, so only 3 years ago, we were number 3 for people moving into Colorado, the third fastest growing state in the country. Today, we're number 5 for people leaving Colorado. Wow. So we are the 5th fastest declining state in the country.
Getting out of here. You talk to people, your clients that are leaving the state. What are you hearing?
Well, a lot of them are cashing out. A lot of them are baby boomers. We've talked about that. We've talked about the different generations. And one of the things that we see, and I see it all the time, I mean, so every day, that the baby boomers are chasing after their kids. And their kids couldn't afford to stay in Colorado. So they had to go elsewhere. And so now the baby boomers, they've got grandkids elsewhere. They're retired. And so they're chasing after their kids. And I see that as a big trend. I think that that's part of it. I also think that people are just cashing out. Our prices are still high comparatively to, the rest of the country. They're down a bit, but they, and the forecast is that they may go down even more. And so I think people are, thinking this is the time, let's sell while we can and take our money and go buy something in Missouri that it's, that's less expensive. And so we see a lot of different reasons for it. We also see people moving in, and the people who are moving in, it's very fascinating to me because I'm a lifelong Coloradan, a native. And so I've really been able to see, how Colorado has changed, and we all know it and we feel it. And, we've gone from red to purple to blue and all of that. But now the people are coming because we are a blue state.
So they want this type of state.
They are seeking
That's
us
lovely.
out. Yep.
We were talking about it
just made
before.
Jeff very, very sad.
No, I mean, I said it's going to take 25 years to change back to a red state, but
we are known for that, and people who want a more liberal government and society are seeking Colorado for that reason, which then
California has beaches. Go over there.
And they have Disneyland.
That's
right.
Come on, Disneyland.
Yeah. So it's always moving and, very fascinating, but we have become the Californians of yesterday, where now we are the ones that are leaving, cashing out, having our money in our pocket and going to other states and probably driving their prices up.
Now I'm sad.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah, it is interesting. But
we're losing our Coloradans. Not good.
On another note, I actually have started to see more people actually buying up or buying down. We hadn't seen that for such a long time, and I am seeing more of that. So I think that is interesting, and I also think that it's hopeful that, people finally have just decided that they can't just stay where they are forever because of prices or interest rates or whatever the case may be. And so we are starting to see that people are, just sort of giving in and saying we need a different house, we need a different location, or whatever the case may be, and that they're actually doing that.
Now, that's really interesting. Gabriel, team leader for Empower Home Team. I want to dive into that a little bit. Can you talk to us about the demographics that you are seeing that are having the ability and looking to size up right now? Also, what are the demographics of those that are sizing down? And where I'm going with this is, for our listeners, where then, based on those choices the sellers are making, where are there opportunities right now that most real estate agents wouldn't know? Because what you're seeing in that demographic change, how is that creating opportunity for new home buyers?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that if you're buying up, because of the fact that prices are down percentage-wise, you may not sell your house for as much as you would have. But if you're going down, let's say 10%, on a $400,000 house, and you're buying an $800,000 house, and that is also at 10%, maybe a little bit more, then even though you're losing some money on the first one, you're actually making out better on the second one. So we see in a downtrending market, it's a great time to be a move-up buyer. And so, but that it sort of, goes all over. I know you want the magic wand of like, where is the most affordable? Yeah. Most affordable is always on the outskirts. The closer you get to the mountains, the more expensive the houses get. The closer you are into the city, into Boulder, the more expensive the houses are. As you go east, they get less expensive. As you go north and south, they get less expensive. And so, I still am a big, big, big believer in Northern Colorado, and seeing so many retirees that are relocating to Northern Colorado. They are building so many ranch style homes, which we don't have nearly enough in Denver.
Right.
And there's full communities that's all they're building. They've got great medical up there, and they're saying 70% of the growth in the next 10 years is going to be along that I-25 corridor going up to Northern Colorado. So I think, there's a lot of bargains up there still.
That's really
That's
interesting.
why they put a Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
That's where the growth is going to be.
Yeah, I had seen a couple of people that do, like a pro Colorado videos, etc. And two of the guys that were doing this we're talking about the opportunities that you have right along that corridor where you're just outside of the Denver metro and you're also sandwiched between Boulder. And they talked about how much of an advantage it is because it's not a bad drive into the city, not a bad drive to Boulder, but you've got these wonderful smaller communities that are being built out there. And oddly enough, they're affordable given the prices elsewhere in town.
Land is more affordable there.
Yeah.
Right. And so because land is more affordable, the houses become more affordable too. So again, you get close to the mountains and the land prices go way, way up. And so then you have to build bigger, more expensive houses. And so places like Arvada and Golden, they don't have very much affordable housing because they just simply can't. The cost of the land. And of course, a landowner, has the right to sell their land for as much as they can. So, you just have to understand that there's going to be some communities that just aren't going to be as affordable as others.
Yeah, and we had a shout out to listener Nick who called me off the air. He's a general contractor, He's got to go to work. He's got to start putting boards and putting nails into boards and stuff. And so he couldn't hang on with us. But he wanted to talk about some of the problems with the housing here in Colorado. And he said, yeah, you've got to figure in its land, labor, materials. He goes, that's the basic math. He said, but what has happened with Colorado turning blue is you have this other thing on top, all the government regulations. And he said, what the problem with some of the new builds is you've got to factor in 10 to 15% above land, labor, materials, because that's what the regulations are going to cost you, an additional 10 to 15% when you're building. And he said, imagine if you're trying to build a new house. What that means that now it's an extra 10 to 15, it constrains the size of house you can build. And he goes, not even getting into larger complexes where you're doing either multi-tract homes, you're doing apartment complexes, you're doing condos, or even trying to plan a community. Because imagine if you're a larger builder and you're trying to build 40 homes in an area, every single one of those homes has a 10 to 15% cost increase just baked into the process. He goes, that's hard for us to find affordable housing.
Yeah. And yet the interesting thing is the most affordable housing right now would be a new build. And the reason, and the reason is because the builders have built in reduced interest rates, so they're buying down the interest rate. So I saw one the other day at 2.88 with the builder. A lot of them are running at 4.25% to 4.5%. And those are 30-year fixed interest rates. And so you can't get that anywhere else. It's built in the price of the home, but it actually is the most affordable way to go. So
that's crazy.
The builders, I had lunch with a friend of mine from Meritage Homes the other day, and he said that last year was his best. He's one of their sales guys, and he said last year was his best ever year for new home sales because they've figured out how to get those interest rates down and that affordability. And again, they're in the outlying areas, right? So the land is cheaper. And so they're doing really well. So that would be a place to go. But while we're on that topic, make sure if you go to a new home build that you take your realtor with you. Because the builders don't want to have to pay compensation to realtors. And if you are not there on their very first visit, which people think, the doors are open, I can go kick around and look and see, they fall in love with something, they talk to the salesperson there, and then they call their realtor. Salesperson won't let the realtor become a part of it. And so they are really trying to block out realtors because, it's compensation they don't have to pay. However, with realtors, and here's how I always look at it, with the new homes, they want you to be happy, but they want the realtors to be happier because the realtors have access to other buyers to bring in, right? And so I have always found that when they are working with a realtor who is on top of it, going and looking and being involved in the whole transaction, the service, even the quality of the house goes up. Because the realtor is sitting there looking at it and they want the realtor to be happy too. So
they want the realtor to go out and talk to the next few customers and say, I trust these people to go there. That's interesting when you talked about the idea of the new build being more affordable, because I spend time just for fun in the car market. I get joy out of it and I watch it a lot. And that's been the trend the last 2 years. It has been more affordable based on interest rates to buy a new car than it is to go and get a bank loan to buy a used car. You're going to pay more buying a used car than you could in a new car, given the same lifetime of the loan, given the same price. That's exactly what you're saying, Gabriel. Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's the exact same thing that's happening with the new builds. So that is, if you're looking for affordability, and that is why that I-25, going north on I-25, there's a lot of them that are out there. And yeah, right now, a lot of those towns are small and don't have as many amenities, but it is easy to get to places that do. And, Fort Collins is so fun, and Boulder is so fun. And, they're not that far away now.
The Buc-ee's has everything you need anyway. So that's just down the street.
I have been to Buc-ee's, and it is crazy.
Isn't it nice?
It is.
I love it.
Nice, and
Pulled
it's
pork
crazy.
sandwiches.
They are good.
Gay Ribble, team leader from the Empower Home team, is joining us in studio and willing to take your phone calls. They're starting to come in. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Look, if you are considering selling your home, go with the team that's not only going to give you top level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble is proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. They can sit down and actually show you their list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much you're going to put in your pocket after closing? The Empower Home team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE, hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with Gay and your calls. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show special. Live in studio is Gay Ribble. She's team leader for the Empower Home team. You know her name. She's one of those like famous Coloradans now.
Yeah.
Right? Jake Jabs,
Oh,
Gay
absolutely.
Ribble.
Hey, we had a friend of the show that's joining us tomorrow, Jeff Hildebrand.
Yes.
Our poet laureate that is going to be joining us tomorrow was in here, and he's like, oh, who's in the studio? I'm like, well, Gay Ribble. And he's like, oh, that's Gay Ribble? Yeah, he's like, oh, wow. Yeah, it is. You're a celebrity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And by the way, we got a request from Janet for the text line number 720-819-5115 is the text line number 720-819-5115. Thank you, Janet, for calling in.
Yeah, thank you so
Asking that
much.
question. All right. So, Gay Ribble, we were talking about how things are going to change generationally. You got a lot of people that are baby boomers. It's what I call the kind of Prince Charles, King Charles issue. You don't get to be king till you're in your 70s because your parents, who are only 25, 30 years older than you, are still hanging on.
Yeah.
And living good lives. And many of them have beautiful homes, and that's where they're living. But they're going to run up against age and health factors. And at a certain point, the baby boomers are going to kind of empty out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we've had a shortage of housing because during the recession, we didn't build any houses for 5 years. And so we were building, up until that point in 2006, we were building 1 million houses a year across the country. And then we had 5 years where we didn't build any. And then since then, there's been so much of a labor shortage that we've never been able to build 1 million houses a year since. So we're right now at about 6 million houses short for the people that we need, right? And so a lot of those houses are being occupied or owned by baby boomers. So many baby boomers do own in multiple states because their kids are in multiple states, right? Yeah. And so as they start to age, and so they're saying 10 years from now, the end of the baby boomers right now, they're 60. So the last of the baby boomers are 60. And so, those will last longer, but the older ones are in their 70s right now.
Right.
So you think 10 to 18 years or so, most of those people will not be needing their houses.
Do you think they're going to be going to senior living homes? Is that still as popular?
I think it is. And I think that senior living has changed, right? I mean, it's become more of, and different types of senior living. A lot of seniors are starting to go on cruise lines that they can go for like a 9-month cruise. And it's cheaper than if they were to go to a senior retirement home. And so they're doing a lot of different innovative things for seniors because there's so many, right? As the baby boomers have gone through all of life, things changed around the baby boomers because there's so many of them. And so I think alternative lifestyles have really changed for baby boomers as well.
All right, I want to ask you about this.
Yeah.
So alternative lifestyles for millennials. I'm like the oldest of the millennials. And I'll tell you what's really attractive to me is the idea of buying like 200 acres and living with my brothers and my parents and then our children and like have it, I don't want to say a compound, that sounds weird, but where we all live within driving distance and people take the golf carts and you kind of share. That kind of sounds pretty cool to me.
It is cool. I did that. I had the opportunity to do that. I lived next door to my brother and my mom lived about 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
And it was great. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
It's like the villages in Florida. Is kind of that idea. And then we've got Heritage, garden and stuff over here. My mom is now in a retirement community. We spent a long time looking around for the right one because it's that balance of how much independence can you have, and then also some of the medical care and other things that are the aspect form that takes over. And there is a delicate balance. And there are a lot of people that are moving out. And one of her best friends, that's a neighbor of hers, also just recently moved into the same retirement community. We're going there actually for dinner tonight to see her. But they're starting to make those choices in part because solo living, it really comes down to 1, access to cash for retirement, and then 2, also access to medical care.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've seen the most with these retirement communities is that access to medical care, is that you have something or someone on staff that is there that can provide some immediate care right away for things that you're not having to worry about if I'm alone or I'm taking care of my partner inside a house, that how long until that medical care gets here and what's the access to it. Yeah.
It seems like, and I know this is the heart of the conversation, when you remove somebody from what they're used to and all that's familiar to them, and essentially like move them into a college dorm.
It is like that,
with like lots of new experiences and new people. I say this because we did that for my grandfather, and it seemed really hard on him, and he didn't last long.
I'm doing that more and more with people, but there is that socialization piece, and the socialization is pretty big. I had one client that right before the lockdown with COVID, she moved to a retirement community, and they were supposed to all be locked down in their rooms, and their meals were delivered to them.
Right.
And once they knew that like the meals had been picked up for the night, they all had parties at each other's rooms. And they didn't tell and so she was like 7th floor, the 7th floor all got together, and it is. So I think socialization, actually, once they get used to it, getting used to it is really, really hard. The food is different, all the things. But once they do get used to it, the socialization, the studies are saying that the socialization actually helps prolong their life because they're not so lonely.
Yeah, and I would back that up and say that my mom's experience, she was worried about that as well. The idea is, she's like, after all this time, I'm going back to dorm living. It's interesting you use that descriptor. That's exactly how she described it. And then the first full week that she was there, she's like, I now have a standing invitation for 5 o'clock dinner on a Friday, and they go to wine party beforehand, and then they go to dinner. And she said the conversations that she's been having with people have been fantastic. And for me, if I was going to recommend someone that was looking at moving an older parent into a retirement community, do it before they have wheels. Do it where they are still independent, when they can still get out and have the activities. Because once you bring in the idea of having, a walker or a wheelchair, it's much more difficult for them to participate in the activities and to make friends and to move around. Do it when they still are active, because a lot of those communities will have opportunities for experiences and field trips and other stuff like that. Like my mom's community, every single day, there are 3 or 4 different activities that you can join in, everything from exercise to painting. There's a book club, there's a finance club, there's knitting. They've got a poker team that are sharks. So, but it's all about the mobility. So I would say do it before they are constrained on their mobility.
I meet with many elderly people who are at that point of making that decision, and I liken it to surgery. So let's just talk about surgery. If you have to have emergency surgery, let's say you fall, you break your hip, and they have to operate that day, the odds of surviving that surgery go way down because your vitals are not level, and all of the different things.
Crisis, right?
It's a crisis. What they like to do if you break your hip is to wait 3 or 4 days, right? So that you can become more stable and then do the surgery, and then your odds of surviving go up quite a bit. But if you have an elective surgery, your odds go way, way up, right? Because you're in good shape. You just need to go and get your hip fixed, right? So all of those things, I liken that as an analogy to housing. So if you can go when it's at your leisure, right? Like you are wanting to find a different place, you can go look at all the different ones, see what is the right fit for you. You're going to do really well. But if you do it where now we can't, manage the house any longer, we have a walker, all of those things, now it's going to go, your odds of making that really successful become, lower. And the worst case, and I have had to do this quite a few times, where somebody falls, they never are able to go back to their house ever again. So straight from the hospital, they have to go to some sort of an assisted living facility. It's what's available at that moment. It's what your family can find for you quickly, right? So you don't get any say in it. You don't get a voice. You're not getting to look and find, where you're going to be happiest. And so there really is a point of time that you should not wait till you are going to get to that point where you really have to go. You want to still do it when it's optional because the success rate goes way, way up for that.
I would back up on that because that was the experience with my father. Is he had suffered a stroke and he was not going to be able to be cared for back at the house. We thought at first, and when he was first in the recovering facilities, that was the goal. And I could see how much it broke his spirit when we told him, no, based on where you are, you're not going to be able to come back home because we can't care for you. So now we have to look for a facility. That broke his heart, and because he doesn't have the agency on it. It's not his choice. And so imagine any of us waking up, whatever happens, waking up in a hospital after something horrible has happened, and then the family telling you the one thing you don't get to do is go home.
Yeah. And you think about the facilities that have immediate openings are probably not the most highly sought after, right?
Right. Yeah,
and so you're not even getting to go maybe to the best possible place because there's waiting lists for most of those.
Gay Ribble, team leader for the Empower Home team, joining us live in studio. We're going to get to calls and texts next. By the way, Gabe writing, I underwrite home mortgages, all other consumer debt. And I love listening to Gabe. He wants to know if you're a Raiders fan, though.
No. Definitely not.
She bleeds orange and blue.
I
All right.
do.
If you're considering selling your home, go with the team that's not only going to give you top level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble's proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. They can sit down and actually show you their list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much money you're going to put in your pocket after closing? The Empower Home team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams by calling 833-301-SOLD. 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Gabe, I'm sorry that Gail is not a Raiders fan. It's going to break his heart.
We think more of her because of that.
All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. We love you, Gabe.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Gary, really appreciate you calling in. We're just so tight on time. I want to get right directly to his question, which was essentially Donald Trump is promoting the idea of mass deportations. You have Kamala Harris talking about a $25,000 tax credit to first-time home buyers. There's a lot going on that's going to directly affect your industry. What's your read on those?
Yeah, well, I think that we're going to be watching to see what happens right along with everybody else. And certainly, I think if there was a mass deportation, that would probably from a labor standpoint impact things more. A lot of people who are undocumented can't find housing, right? So they either are living with someone else or they are unhoused, but you can't buy a house if you don't have the documentation. And so I don't know from a housing market standpoint, maybe from labor, but from a housing market standpoint, it would be as significant as you might think. I think that there's a lot of people who have very large extended families living in small spaces together. And so it probably would impact it that way. As far as the $25,000 tax credit, we have started getting some calls. It is concerning to me because I think that there are people who maybe are missing an opportunity to buy now when the rates are a little bit lower, and we're thinking they're going to go down again here in September. And the prices are going down a little bit, and they're waiting, thinking that this $25,000 tax credit is coming, which, as we know, probably won't happen that way.
Promise things that they can't deliver. But and it's important to note, too, that this would only be for a very small segment of the population.
Very small, and it's going to then overtax everybody else who has to pay for all of these programs. And so actually what that might do is it could help that very small group, but it's probably going to hurt the bigger group. And so in the end, probably hurt housing if we went that direction.
It's kind of like when we pushed a lot of people into college that probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. College got expensive for everybody else too.
Yep.
Wow. So Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team joining us live in studio. Look, if you need to sell your home, buy a home, any of that, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team is the best people to connect with. Her phone number, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or visit gayhasthebuyers.com, GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Thank you so much for being in studio with us today.
Always my pleasure.
So much fun. She's so smart about this stuff. You've learned so much.
It is fun.
It's great.
It's fun to have her here, and a lot of good text messages and phone call questions as well. It's been an absolutely wild show. Everybody from Heidi Ganal to Gay Ribble hanging out here. We talked the wolf packs. We talked climate change and how important is that to Colorado. A lot of debates over that issue. That caught me off guard.
Yeah, me too. That was so much fun.
People
I
are
appreciate
passionate about that.
Yeah,
if you missed that, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast there. Charlie Kirk's up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a great day.